Chapter 150. Hearing Qian Ruoyu's arrangement, Yu Qiao interrupted in surprise. Isn't Songqing University's Lu Qing known for his unlimited stamina? If we can't win even if we take turns. Before he could finish his words, he was stared at by 4 fierce eyes. His voice became smaller and finally stopped abruptly. The 4 eyes were from Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan, who were sitting on either side of Qian Ruoyu. Damn it, what was wrong with my brain? Why did I get involved when they were fighting for a woman? What a waste of time and life. Yu Qiao didn't have the guts to scold the 2 flower protectors, so he could only complain about himself. He had just turned 22 and was of amateur first pin. His father was the junior brother of Qian Ruoyu's father. He wasn't a bad person, but he didn't have a good character. He had joined the team at Qian Ruoyu's invitation because he was interested in the gossip. Now he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Qian Ruoyu explained seriously with a serious face. I've consulted the elders in my family. They all agreed that Lu Cheng can only do recovery training in these 2 days. If we force him to fight, there will be a lot of flaws on his right side. We can target him repeatedly, so it's not impossible. Well, junior sister is right. I didn't think clearly. While Yu Qiao answered sincerely, he silently said, a wise man submits to circumstances. To be honest, his junior sister was pretty and had a good character. She was just a little spoiled. Sometimes she was too greedy, and sometimes she liked to pretend to be an adult. Seeing that senior brother Yu was convinced by her, Qian Ruoyu beamed with joy, showing the youth and naivety of an 18 or 19-year-old girl. She looked around and said, so our vanguard must be the type who is good at ending the battle quickly. Hearing this, Feng Xiaoquan volunteered. Everyone has seen how good my tiger and crane double form is. I won't give them a chance to wander around and fight. He had a good appearance, but his slightly hooked nose showed a bit of arrogance and frivolity. Before Qian Ruoyu could answer, Jiang Dingyi retorted, you think you can end the battle quickly if you don't wander around and fight? The gap between amateur first pin and second pin isn't that big. 24 blizzard strikes isn't a piece of scrap metal. Ruoyu, let me do it. I'm tall and strong. As long as I can seize the opportunity to force them into a head-on fight, the earth-shattering palm will definitely be able to end the battle quickly. He was close to 1.9 meters tall, and his muscles were firm like half an iron pillar. His personality was considered steady, and he was dependable. It was just that he was rather stuffy and did not speak much. With a swoosh, Feng Xiaoquan stood up and sneered. In the previous few matches, when did you end them quickly? It's more likely that he'll be dealt with quickly. Due to the care given by the organizing committee intentionally or unintentionally, their opponents in the first 2 matches were not strong, which was a process for them to accumulate confidence and improve their strength. But no matter how much care was given, they still encountered a professional 9th pin in the second match. Jiang Dingyi tried to exhaust his opponent with brute force, but his opponent seized the opportunity and finished him off. Hearing Feng Xiaoquan's ridicule, Jiang Dingyi also stood up and stared at him. Didn't you lose in the end? Seeing that the 2 boys were about to have an internal conflict, Qian Ruoyu stepped in between them and covered her head. I'll fight the first round. There was no way he could live like this. The atmosphere in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club was the complete opposite. Damn, we have to call Coach Lu today? Sun Jian was annoyed and amused at the same time. Coach Shi was too irresponsible. Lin Hua, who was next to him, blushed inexplicably. It was already embarrassing enough for her to ask for leave because of her menstruation. However, the person she asked for leave was not the old Coach Shi, but a junior who was 2 years younger than her. Because Yan Zheka was going to take her place, she specifically explained it to Yan Zheka, but specifically told her not to tell the boys. Now it seemed that her junior must have passed on her words and helped her to ask for leave. Thinking of this, she was so shy that she stared at the floor attentively. Li Mao took off the hot towel on his face and said in surprise, Coach Shi left just like that? Did he really not care about the result of this match at all? Yeah, anyway, it's a match for us to accumulate actual combat experience. It doesn't matter who is the coach. We can even tie a dog. Lu Cheng deliberately made fun of himself to help Li Mao relax. Puff. Everyone burst into laughter, and Yan Zheka even hit Lu Cheng. When Li Mao saw that no one was paying much attention to him, he heaved a sigh of relief. His body was no longer as tense. Lu Cheng was about to arrange the order of appearance when the locker room door behind him was suddenly pushed open. Lin Kei walked in wearing a dark sweater. Lin Kei, why are you here? Sun Jian asked in surprise. Lin Kei said calmly, don't we have a match today? But you can't fight? Li Xiaofan thought Lin Kei was trying to be brave. Lin Kei looked at the corner of the locker room and said expressionlessly, I can cheer for you. Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka were stunned at first, then looked at each other and smiled. They both felt the change in Lin Quebec after last week's match. My cousin seems to have a sense of collective honor. Yen Zheka whispered in Lu Cheng's ear, unable to restrain her excitement and happiness. Lu Cheng was a little confused. He used to have a sense of collective honor. Didn't he feel very sad and painful when he lost last semester's match? Well, how do I explain this? He used to value the martial arts club because of my uncle, but for him, he is the only one in the club. When he can't fight, he doesn't care about the life or death of others. Well, that's how he looks down on you. Yen Zheka laughed in a low voice, and her hot breath brushed against Lu Cheng's ear, making him feel numb. Ticklish. Lu Cheng tilted his head and laughed in a low voice. The others were shocked by Lin Kei's performance and were stunned for a moment, only watching the strange scene. Since when did young hero Lin, who was always alone, cheer for others? Yen Zheka laughed in a low voice. Every time you whisper in my ear, you're always like this. Lu Cheng gave a hollow laugh and didn't dare to continue the conversation. He changed the topic and said, in last week's game, your cousin and I worked together without holding back and won the final victory. Maybe because of this, he has a sense of collective honor. Hee. How are you going to thank me? Do we still need to thank each other? Yen Zheka deliberately opened her eyes wide and answered innocently. Seeing that Sun Jian and the others were looking over, Lu Cheng stopped flirting and said seriously, I'll arrange the match today. I will arrange the order of appearance for today. Senior sister Lin Hua has suffered some injuries during the training, so Yen Zheka will take her place. She has not participated in the previous university martial arts competitions, nor has she participated in any challenge tournament. The Dream Battle team definitely does not know the details of her situation. In this way, she will have the opportunity to win by surprise. Therefore, Yen Zheka, you will be the first to fight. Yen Zheka nodded seriously and answered, okay. Her body trembled slightly, more excited than nervous. Lin Hua was relieved and deeply grateful for Lu Cheng's care. While Guaqing, Li Xiaowen, and Li Mao were surprised by Yen Zheka's replacement, Lu Cheng continued, Senior brother Sun Jian, you're the main player today. You'll be the last one to hold the line. Hee. All the heavy responsibilities are yours. He purposely said this to make Li Mao less nervous. No problem. Sun Jian answered straightforwardly. Lu Cheng looked at Li Mao and said, Senior brother Li, you'll be the second to fight. Observe your opponent later. At this time, he didn't say anything to make Li Mao relax, so that he wouldn't be nervous because of the special treatment. Okay. Li Mao was much less nervous than before. After arranging the match order, Lu Cheng looked at the time and said, there's still a while. Everyone get ready. You can close your eyes and adjust your breath. His master had already told him about the opponent's situation in the morning. He would combine the specific match order of the opponent and give him a secret instruction later. Just as Lu Cheng finished speaking, Yen Zheka picked up the bag and said hurriedly, Senior sister Lin, Qing, help me tie my hair up. In less important matches where they were confident in themselves, female martial artists usually tied their hair up in a ponytail before going on stage. But in reality, their best choice was to wear their hair short or tied up in a bun. This was to prevent their hair from affecting their body in an intense battle or to be targeted by their enemies. Yen Zheka came from a family of martial arts. Since she was prepared for the possible fight today, she had brought all the necessary items. Under the guidance of the principle of convenience, not beauty, and with the help of Lin Hua and Guaqing, she quickly tied her hair up and stood in front of Lu Cheng. The girl's neck was white and slender with beautiful lines. She looked more mature with her hair tied up. Lu Cheng couldn't help but praise her in a low voice. So beautiful. Yen Zheka's facial features were more delicate and her temperament was more gentle. But with her hair tied up, she gave people a feeling of bright eyes and white teeth. Am I not beautiful most of the time? Yen Zheka's eyes were filled with joy as she hummed in a low voice. Lu Cheng laughed and said, Different beautiful. Yan Zheka smiled and didn't say more. She reached out her hand to help Lu Cheng tidy his collar and patted the dust off. She said softly, "You're a coach. You have to be more spirited, okay?" "Yes, Coach Yan." Lu Cheng answered with a smile. He turned around and clapped his hands. "Go out. There's not a big gap between amateur fighters of first pin and second pin." After saying that, he walked towards Lin Kei, who was by the door. He smiled and extended his fist. Lin Kei was stunned. In the end, he clenched his fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. He said softly, "All the best." The audience in the martial arts arena was obviously not organized. When they saw the home team coming out, they started cheering for them sparsely. Li Liantong took advantage of the fact that no one here knew her. She waved her hands at Yan Zheka like a madwoman, venting her accumulated pressure. When she saw them approaching the home team seats, she said in surprise, "Cabbage Ruru, they don't seem to have a coach?" Her impression of the martial arts club's coach was a white-haired old man. Zhong Yanru stretched her neck and looked over. Suddenly, she was stunned. Lu Cheng is sitting in the coach's seat. What? He's the coach today? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang were shocked. At the Dream Squad seating area, Qian Ruoyu pouted slightly and said unhappily, "Songqing University Martial Arts Club is looking down on us?" Their elders had repeatedly emphasized that the coach of Songqing University Martial Arts Club had a strong background and powerful strength. They also told them not to create trouble. If they were a dragon, they should coil up. If they were a tiger, they should lie down. In the end, the coach didn't even come and let that Lu Cheng be the coach. They really think we're kids. Humph, we have to teach them a lesson. Feng Xiaokuan and Jiang Dingy also felt that they were being looked down on. Their expressions were full of fighting spirit. Chapter 151. As a formal selection match, even if they were only qualified to record the match and didn't even have the chance to make a backup broadcast, the big screens in the martial arts arena lit up one after another, allowing the audience to clearly see the arena from all angles, as well as the seats of the host and away teams near the arena. "Hey, where's the coach of our martial arts club? I remember that he's an old man. The one sitting in the coach's seat seems to be a student. No way, could it be that the coach has changed? When I passed by yesterday, I saw the former coach. Look carefully, I feel that the student coach looks a little familiar." The audience was noisy and bustling, but none of it entered Lu Cheng's ears. He was listening to Li Xiaowen's report on the opponent's members and order of appearance. Qian Ruoyu first, Feng Xiaokuan second, Jiang Dingy third. Lu Cheng muttered thoughtfully and felt a little relieved in his heart. Although there was no difference between men and women in martial arts competitions, and it was normal to have contact with fists and feet, and he himself could understand and accept it, he still felt a little uncomfortable when he thought that Yan Zheka would hold the opponent's wrist or be held by the opponent when using listening skill. It couldn't be better that her first opponent was a girl. When this match was over, the following opponents wouldn't dare to give her the chance to use listening skill. It was okay to attack the opponent's vital points in a martial arts competition, but one shouldn't deliberately take advantage of the opponent. That would be ostracized by the whole circle, which would tarnish the image of a martial artist. While thinking, Lu Cheng pulled Yan Zheka over and said with a smile, "Do you want to win quickly, or do you want to train your actual combat ability?" Feeling her boyfriend's confident attitude, Yan Zheka's slightly trembling body calmed down. She smiled and said, "How do you want to win quickly? How do you want to train your actual combat ability?" You've seen the video of Qian Ruoyu's previous matches, and we've also discussed it. She doesn't lack actual combat experience, but either she wins smoothly or loses cleanly. She hasn't encountered any unexpected situations. As long as you can surprise her, she will most likely make mistakes. Lu Cheng coughed and gave instructions in the manner of a coach. Yan Zheka's beautiful eyes looked up and said, "To win quickly is to surprise her with the ability to pull back the center of gravity at the beginning of the match and create opportunities with all my strength? To train my actual combat ability is to hold back temporarily and use fists and feet? More or less." Lu Cheng smiled and said, "However, actual combat situations are ever-changing. Your opponent may not give you a chance to familiarize yourself with your punches and kicks. No matter how much I say, it still depends on your judgment and performance. Personally, I suggest you don't hold anything back." At this moment, the referee said in a clear voice, The third round of the Songqing Division Preliminaries, Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Dream Squad. First round, Yan Zheka vs Chen Ruoyu. When Yan Zheka was about to enter the ring, Lu Cheng seized the last chance to whisper a few words to her. If there's no other opportunity, I'll show a flaw and let Chen Ruoyu use Tai Chi hand wrap to compete with her in listening skill. I've observed her. She's very confident in touching listening skill and always wants to try it. However, it's obvious that she hasn't entered meditation yet. She relies entirely on the characteristics of her martial arts and her usual push hand training. There's a certain gap between you and her, so you can restrain her. After defeating Chen Ruoyu, Feng Xiaoquan will be the next to enter the ring. He'll definitely want to save face for his beloved girl, so his fighting style will be relatively more aggressive. This will give you the opportunity to use 24 blizzard strikes. When the time comes, even if Feng Xiaoquan doesn't lose, he'll be close to defeat. This will give Senior Li Mao the best opportunity to enter the battle. Yan Zheka listened carefully, her eyes flashing as if digesting. Although she came from a family of scholars and her accumulation of knowledge was far better than Lu Cheng's, and she was always good at analyzing matches and giving suggestions, it was all just theory. When it was her turn, she still felt a little guilty and didn't dare to believe her own judgment and preparation. Her mind was in a mess. She wasn't as experienced as Lu Cheng, who could calmly analyze any situation and handle it from the details. Listening to her boyfriend's tireless and detailed explanation, Yan Zheka gradually became more certain. She nodded slightly, smiled faintly, pursed her lips and was about to step forward. Suddenly, Lu Cheng called her in a low voice. Yan Zheka turned her head to look at him, her face full of confusion. Lu Cheng raised the corner of his mouth and smiled gently. This time it's my turn to cheer for you. He suddenly clenched his hands into fists and shook them. Victory! Yan Zheka's eyes suddenly became gentle. She smiled sweetly and said, "This seems to be the first time someone has cheered for me like this." After saying this, she turned around and walked up the stone steps step by step. Her body had stopped trembling, and her feet didn't slow down at all. When she stepped into the ring and her figure was completely magnified by the screen, the stands on both sides suddenly quieted down. No one would have thought that the first fighter of Songqing University Martial Arts Club would be such a beautiful girl. Bright eyes and white teeth. She was beautiful and elegant. Chen Ruoyu was originally a recognized beauty. She was delicate, tender, and full of youthfulness. However, when she stood in front of Yan Zheka, she was instantly overshadowed. She was dwarfed and looked like a passerby. It can't be. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has such a beauty? It's fine if there is, but how can they bear to let her fight in the challenge tournament? Yu Qiao betrayed Dream Squad in an instant and said with heartache. Even if they had liked Chen Ruoyu for many years and their obsession had become very deep, Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan were still shocked by the girl's beauty. If they were to fight, they might be timid and subconsciously give in. They might also want to show off their strength. Of course, this was under the condition that Chen Ruoyu wasn't watching. In the ring, when Chen Ruoyu saw Yan Zheka, her heart suddenly tightened. She felt an inexplicable sense of danger. It seemed that she was already at a disadvantage and her status was shaky. She secretly gritted her teeth and planned to use her martial arts strength to turn the situation around. 3 minutes of conversation time. The referee announced. I've seen your information. You haven't participated in the ranking event, and you haven't fought in the challenge tournament before. Today is your first real battle, right? Chen Ruoyu wasn't stupid. She used her first real battle to make her opponent nervous. Yan Zheka's mind was echoing with Lu Cheng's encouragement and analysis just now. She casually replied, "Yes, but there are always pros and cons. At least you don't know me at all." She smiled faintly and hid all the nervousness between her eyebrows. So what if it's my first real battle? My boyfriend defeated his opponent easily in his first real battle. At this moment, Lu Cheng didn't return to his coach's seat. Instead, he approached the ring and watched the match closely. To him, Yan Zheka's appearance made him more nervous than him fighting. He was afraid that she would be injured or wronged. He was afraid that she would encounter some unexpected situation. In his own battle, at least he could control everything. But now, after direct instruction, he could only watch. The rest would depend on Yan Zheka's improvisation. and how she would perform on the spot was completely unknown. Lu Cheng hid his nervousness and looked as calm as ice. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood beside the ring, watching quietly. Wow, that coach is so cool. You're still in the mood to watch the coach? Which school is that girl from? I remember meeting her on the road. I even hit a telephone pole because I peeked at her. She seems to have a boyfriend. I often see her eating with a boy in the cafeteria. Wait, it seems to be that coach. Damn it, rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. Maybe she's there to eat the grass near their burrows. Before this, although Yen Zheka was pretty, there were many pretty girls among the tens of thousands of students. There were also quite a few who were not worse than her. She had never hosted a party to welcome freshmen and had never done anything in the limelight. So, not everyone knew about her. Only those in the same school, the martial arts club, and her roommates knew about her. As for the others, they would only take a few glances when they met on the road. But soon, they would forget about her because of their studies and games. Lu Cheng even knows how to pose and act cool. Li Liantong snickered and said to Shi Xiangyang. Shi Xiangyang guessed, I think he's just nervous about Ku. He's full of boyfriend power. In the midst of everyone's discussion, the 3 minutes of conversation came to an end. Chen Ruoyu tried her best but failed to affect Yen Zheka's mood. Instead, she was irritated by the way Yen Zheka looked at her as if she had dropped out of school. She planned to teach her opponent a lesson. Yen Zheka didn't know what Chen Ruoyu was thinking. The reason why she kept looking at her was because she thought of the melodramatic emotional entanglement between her and the two boys. She wanted to see what the parties involved were like. Begin. The referee waved his right hand. Yen Zheka had made up her mind to hold back and familiarize herself with her moves so that she could adapt to the real battle as soon as possible. Therefore, after a few steps, she twisted her waist and back and directly launched a mountain blast punch. Chen Ruoyu put her feet together and punched with her left hand. Like a drum, her left hand moved horizontally to Yen Zheka's wrist. Bam! Yen Zheka's strength was slightly weaker and her body swayed a little. At this moment, Chen Ruoyu loosened her shoulders and exerted strength purely from her waist and back. Her left arm was like a tangled hand, leading Yen Zheka's right fist to the side. Yen Zheka's center of gravity was affected subconsciously. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chen Ruoyu took half a step forward and quickly punched with her right fist, aiming for the exposed middle flaw of her opponent. This fighting style, which originated from Tai Chi, put Yen Zheka in danger. Yen Zheka's heart tightened. Fortunately, she had been practicing for a long time and didn't panic. Her spine suddenly wriggled like a dragon turning over and forcibly pulled her center of gravity back. She then used her left foot as a fulcrum and turned around to Chen Ruoyu's right side. With her back facing the enemy, she narrowly avoided the forward punch. With her back facing the enemy, it was difficult to observe the situation. Even if she used her elbow to attack, it would be easy for her to counterattack. Yen Zheka didn't stop. She turned again and came behind Chen Ruoyu. She raised her right hand and punched down. Cheng was right. My opponent won't give me a chance to familiarize myself with my moves. She forced me to pull my center of gravity from the beginning. Is this real battle? Chapter 152. Chen Ruoyu was quite shocked when Yen Zheka forcibly pulled back her center of gravity and circled to her right. She didn't expect Songqing University Martial Arts Club to have a secret weapon after injuring Lin Ke and Lu Cheng. A secret weapon that had reached the initial level of meditation and a secret weapon that could control the details of the body to a certain extent. This was really a configuration for the final round of the university martial arts competition. Fortunately, she was also a martial artist who had experienced many actual battles. Although she was shocked, she did not panic. In a situation where she could not withdraw her right fist in time, she directly tightened the muscles on her right thigh and threw out a side kick, fast and ruthless. However, Yen Zheka didn't stop. She circled to her back and just when she withdrew her right leg and couldn't exert force. Damn it! She didn't look like she didn't have actual combat experience. Facing Yen Zheka's downward punch, Chen Ruoyu cursed in her heart. She quickly tapped her right foot and swung her arm. Instead of pulling it back, she hammered forward, causing her upper body to fall down. She narrowly avoided the fatal blow with a slanted posture. At the same time, her lower body stood firmly without the slightest wobble. Failing to hit, Yen Zheka wanted to turn her fist into a palm and press down with force to make Chen Ruoyu unable to maintain her center of gravity. However, at this moment, Chen Ruoyu's upper body was like a spring. She suddenly pulled back and leaned back, avoiding Yen Zheka's right palm. Her left arm was already bent, and what followed was a vicious elbow strike. Yen Zheka raised her left hand and blocked her elbow in time. Then she felt the strength of this strike was quite strong. She didn't dare to be careless and withdrew her palm to reduce the force. In a split second, Chen Ruoyu used the blocked elbow as a fulcrum and threw out her forearm with a clenched fist towards Yen Zheka's lower abdomen. Tilting punch. Lifting palm. Impossible to guard against. Yen Zheka had watched many of her opponent's competition videos and was familiar with her fighting style. But this was the first time she encountered a real fight. Although she wasn't nervous, her mind was still a little muddled. She couldn't quickly turn her accumulated knowledge into on-the-spot judgment. She couldn't make the correct response in time to the pull and the tilt just now. Fortunately, her choice wasn't completely wrong. When she withdrew her left palm holding Chen Ruoyu's elbow, she drew a small arc, flipped it up, and then shook it. Together with the push of her right palm, she threw her enemy one step forward. Pa! As the distance between the two of them increased, Chen Ruoyu's punch hit nothing but air. She simply went along with the force of the throw and took a few steps forward, taking advantage of the momentum to turn around, returning the situation to the confrontation before the official start of the competition. Yen Zheka recalled the previous scenes in her mind. She realized that she lacked actual combat experience and had made many mistakes in judgment. If she hadn't been cautious enough, she would have been defeated. Until now, she finally understood why Lu Cheng had suggested that they not hold back and go all out with her as the leader. Because this was the only way to avoid making mistakes to the greatest extent. If you don't listen to the words of the old man, you'll be at a disadvantage. However, if he didn't experience it for himself, he wouldn't be able to understand the insight contained in these words. She took a light breath and felt that she had completely entered the competition state. Her mind was clear again, and she was no longer nervous and confused. Since he understood, he would listen to Coach Lu. She pounced forward, took a step forward, and took the initiative to attack. Seeing that Yen Zheka had narrowly avoided the punch, Lu Cheng was relieved. From her last counterattack, he judged that she had truly adapted to the competition and had shed the inexperience of a rookie. Not losing in a dangerous situation. With this kind of experience, martial arts combat will be much easier in the future. Lu Cheng nodded with gratification. Even for himself, it was only when he fought with the Shaolin disciple, Wu Shitong, that he relied on the listening skill and had a similar experience. The audience in the stands applauded one after another, spontaneously cheering for Yen Zheka according to the name list on the big screen. They didn't expect that this girl, who looked elegant, gentle, light, and delicate, could perform so valiantly and heroically. Among the cheers of Go Yen Zheka, Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang, and Zhong Yanru felt honored and shouted the most intensely. The reason why such an atmosphere was intoxicating was because when one was in it, one didn't have to consider the opinions of others. They could vent themselves to their heart's content, including happiness, pride, and the accumulated negative emotions. How come everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club can enter meditation? Yu Qiao's eyes greedily followed the beautiful figure and couldn't help but sigh. The members of the Dream Squad were all extraordinary, but until now, only Jiang Dingy had entered the door of meditation. For a martial arts aristocratic family, meditation was not something that could be practiced at any time. If one was too young and had a pure heart, he or she would know almost nothing. If one tried to meditate, he or she would only fall asleep. As one grew older and had more contact with society, the information they received would be more varied, and it would be harder for them to conceal their spirit and qi. In other words, the most suitable age to practice meditation was between the ages of 10 to 22 or 23. In this, the spirit was closely related to the body. The stronger the body, the more vigorous the qi and blood, and the more energetic the spirit, the easier it was to enter meditation. Therefore, before a martial artist's body was fully developed and his qi and blood were vigorous to a certain extent, practicing meditation would only make one tired, slow down, and weak. Without a certain level of talent, it was almost impossible to enter the door. Considering this, martial arts families arranged for their disciples to practice meditation between 17 or 22 years old. Some were even more extreme, requiring the body to reach the level of professional ninth pin. Jiang Dingy, Feng Xiaoquan, and Qian Ruoyu had only started to try it in the past year and a half. Feng Xiaoquan answered with slight worry. Could it be that the coach of Songqing University has some secret method? Yan Zheka's meditation seems to have reached the initial level. Her ability should be more than that. If Ruoyu is careless, the result will be troublesome. Although that girl was pleasing to the eye, the one he cared about most was still Qian Ruoyu. There are tens of thousands of students in Songqing University. It's not difficult to find a few who have the talent to enter meditation. Zhang Dingyi sighed. Although there were high-ranked dance stage fighters in his martial arts club, it would be good enough if he could pick 1 out of 100 disciples. After all, it was not some big sect or force. In the arena, Yan Zheka approached Qian Ruoyu and threw a seabed burst punch at her lower abdomen. During this process, she did some visualization and mixed a little of the meteor force into her fist, making it faster and faster. It tore the air and made an explosive sound. Her physical quality was not enough to complete the real meteor force. Bam! Qian Ruoyu lowered her body and hammered her left hand down fiercely, blocking Yan Zheka's burst punch. Bang! When the two collided, she was about to repeat the same trick and lead her opponent's fist away. Yan Zheka's body trembled. She took the opportunity to withdraw her fist and borrowed strength. She stretched out her left hand and grabbed Qian Ruoyu's shoulder quickly and fiercely. Brutal blizzard, of 24 blizzard strikes. Qian Ruoyu was not surprised but happy. She pushed her feet inward and put strength in her waist and back. Her right shoulder loosened and moved forward. Just when her hand came into contact with Yan Zheka's palm, she suddenly tightened her shoulder. Before her opponent could grab her, she bounced and shook. Yan Zheka's left hand was immediately bounced away and slightly stopped in the air. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qian Ruoyu shook her right arm and caught Yan Zheka's palm with Tai Chi hand wrap. Seeing this scene, Zhang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan immediately shouted, "Good job," and couldn't wait to rush to the side of the field to applaud. But when they saw Lu Cheng smiling and nodding opposite them, they suddenly realized something and hurriedly shouted, "Let go!" At this moment, Qian Ruoyu could not hear the voices outside the arena. She held her opponent's slender fingers and pulled them down without hesitation. However, before she could exert her strength, Yan Zheka seemed to have anticipated it. Her left hand moved in the direction of her pulling, and her body moved closer. Her right hand clenched into a fist and suddenly punched out, aiming for Qian Ruoyu's lower abdomen. Qian Ruoyu did not dare to be negligent. She temporarily stopped trying with her right hand and gathered her strength to pound her left fist like a drum. Bang! In the midst of the dull sound, Yan Zheka used her listening skill to pull back her left hand. Under Qian Ruoyu's subconscious grip, they pulled her forward with their combined strength. It was this movement that made Yan Zheka tighten her right thigh and hit Qian Ruoyu with her knee. Poof! Her knee hit Qian Ruoyu's lower abdomen, but she stopped in time and did not use her full strength. The referee beside them stopped his action and raised his right hand. First round, Yan Zheka wins. Yan Zheka withdrew her right leg and stood up straight again. For a moment, she was still a little absent-minded. She won just like that? She had made several wrong judgments and was surrounded by dangers. After changing her fighting style according to her boyfriend's advice, she actually won so easily. Qian Ruoyu really liked to use Tai Chi hand wrap and to compete with others in listening skill. Qian Ruoyu was really too smooth. In the face of unexpected changes, her reaction was indeed too slow. And this was completely consistent with Cheng's judgment just now. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look back at Lu Cheng. She saw him clenching his fist with a bright smile and giving her a thumbs up. He is really a professional fighter with enough insight and experience. This thought came to Yan Zheka's mind. Her mouth curved, her nose wrinkled, and she actually made a funny face at Lu Cheng. After a moment of absent-mindedness, her first real victory made her very happy and excited. She couldn't wait to rush down the arena and celebrate with Lu Cheng. It was the first time Lu Cheng saw a girl make a funny face. For a moment, he felt that she was so cute. The audience, who were watching the big screen, didn't miss this scene. The cheers and shouts became sparse. Qian Ruoyu rubbed her stomach and stood up straight. Her expression was very complicated. She had never thought that she would lose so quickly and so cleanly. After discovering that her opponent could forcibly pull back her center of gravity, she should have realized that her meditation skills were enough to support her listening skill in a battle. Qian Ruoyu was a little unwilling to admit defeat. "I didn't know you well enough this time. Next time, I'll win it back. After saying this, she realized that Yan Zheka was not looking at her at all. Instead, she was exchanging glances with their coach, Lu Cheng. This is so disrespectful. Qian Ruoyu snorted and turned to leave. Feng Xiaokuan came up to her and patted her shoulder comfortingly. Yan Zheka turned back, her eyebrows relaxed. She laughed in a low voice, "Next time, I won't be a newbie." At this moment, the audience finally realized what had happened. They loudly cheered and shouted for her, their voices echoing around the martial arts arena. Yan Zheka! Yan Zheka! Yan Zheka! Yan Zheka finally experienced the wonderful feeling that her boyfriend had always described. Her cheeks were slightly red from excitement. When she saw Feng Xiaokuan enter the arena, she naturally thought of Lu Cheng's judgment just now. Feng Xiaokuan was obviously in love with Qian Ruoyu. He was the standard flower guardian. After his sweetheart was defeated, he would definitely be eager to help her get revenge in exchange for a good impression. Therefore, his fighting style would be more aggressive than usual. This is my chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. Chapter 153. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Sun Jian and the others changed their sitting postures, their faces full of expectation. In the beginning, they didn't have much confidence in the battle between Yan Zheka and Qian Ruoyu. After all, not everyone was like Lu Cheng, who could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Actual combat experience still needed time to accumulate. But as Yan Zheka steadied herself and launched a counterattack, purposely showing a flaw to get a chance to compete with Lu Cheng's listening skill, they suddenly became excited. During this time, Lu Cheng had been practicing listening skill with Yan Zheka every day, never hiding from their presence. They didn't expect it to come in handy. Yan Zheka, a fledgling, could defeat an opponent 2 levels higher than her. Facing an amateur first pin, they were not completely hopeless. Today, they might be able to get a victory in their home ground. Without Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, we also have the ability to fight. We won't just rely on them. Watching Feng Xiaokuan climbing the stone steps step by step, Yan Zheka quickly panted, trying to recover as much strength as possible. Although she and Qian Ruoyu did not fight for too long in the battle just now, there was no chance for her to use 24 blizzard strikes. However, her body was tense and her mind was in a daze, which would consume her physical strength exponentially. Not to mention that she had dealt with several dangerous situations. Therefore, at this moment, she was more than half exhausted and had to seize the opportunity to take a breather. Feng Xiaokuan saw the girl opposite him with flushed cheeks due to panting and excitement. Her bright eyes were so beautiful that he didn't dare to look directly at her. He quickly closed his eyes, put away all distracting thoughts, and recalled Qian Ruoyu's unwilling and angry expression just now. "Ruoyu, I'm here to avenge you." Thinking of this, he felt a burst of excitement. This was a chance that Jiang Dingyi couldn't get. The referee didn't give them too much time. He raised his right hand and said, "The second round start." With his announcement, the surrounding stands burst into a burst of cheers for Yan Zheka again. Feng Xiaokuan also moved the 2 muscles on his back, like a giant red-crowned crane, and rushed to his opponent. He was so fast that he was in front of Yan Zheka in the blink of an eye. He raised his right hand and put it beside her head, as if he was hugging her head. Then he exerted strength in his muscles, shook the air, and chopped out his right hand fiercely. Tiger hug downward chop. Roar. The sound of the wind reverberated like the roar of a tiger. Together with this attack, it was truly powerful. With Lu Cheng's analysis and her own judgment, Yan Zheka had long anticipated the enemy's attack and killing move. She didn't panic and shook her right arm, thrusting out her fist like a big spear and hitting the tiger claw from the side. Bang! The moment the 2 of them collided, Yan Zheka took a step back with her right foot and stepped firmly on the ground, neutralizing the power that was much stronger than hers. At the same time, her muscles trembled as she used the yin-yang twist to rebound her right arm. Pa! Just as her right fist was bounced off, Feng Xiaokuan's fist suddenly opened. Using his knuckles as the point of force, a series of crisp sounds burst out, turning the downward chop in tiger embrace into the white crane stretches its claws. This was the killing move of the tiger and crane double form. There was no warning before it was launched, but it was fast and fierce. It was more terrifying than the combination of the finger spear and the tiger fist, and more difficult to defend against. Moreover, it could be followed up with other killing moves. If Yan Zheka hadn't carefully studied his match videos and had a deep impression of this move, her wrist would have been broken on the spot. Her right arm bounced back and her body leaned back. Yan Zheka visualized the scene of a roaring wind and snowstorm in her mind. She pulled out her left leg and kicked towards Feng Xiaoquan's knee. Feng Xiaoquan hooked his toes, twisted his waist, lifted his thigh, and bounced his knee. Like a golden rooster standing on one leg, he threw out his right calf and tapped on Yan Zheka's tensed foot. Bang! In the muffled sound, both of them shook at the same time. Yan Zheka took advantage of the force to pull back her leg and stomped down. Her foot pushed inward, allowing the force to surge up through the mountains and over the ridges, converging with the small currents in various parts of her body. Then, using her spine as an axis, she rotated her waist and pulled in her right shoulder. With a loud rumble, she threw out an aggressive blast punch. With the continuous borrowing of force, her punch was not inferior to Feng Xiaoquan's tiger punch. Brutal Blizzard was getting fiercer and fiercer. The combination of her two moves was so tight that Feng Xiaoquan had no chance to dodge with the crane steps. He could only activate his shoulder blades and back muscles, and combined with the force under his feet, he clenched his right hand into a beak and pecked at the side of Yan Zheka's blast punch. The crane pecking momentum, one peck, one hole. Bang! Yan Zheka's right arm bounced back and pushed her strength to the side to avoid the fist. She used her strongest point to meet the crane pecking momentum. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan's right hand bounced back. He couldn't help but shake his hand. After all, the pecking momentum was not as strong as the fist. Yan Zheka's fist was only a little red, but it was not a big deal. Using the yin-yang twist again, Yan Zheka bounced back her right arm and punched with her left fist. Her momentum was even stronger than before, like a never-ending blizzard. Bang! 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 This made the cheers in the stands louder and louder. Thousands of people showed the power of tens of thousands of people. After blocking several times, Feng Xiaoquan felt that his strength was gradually falling into a disadvantage. He knew that he couldn't go on like this, so he quickly restrained himself and took a deep breath. His face suddenly turned red and his temples bulged. It seemed that gunpowder was exploding in his body. Using his feet as a cannon, he suddenly punched out. Bang! Their bodies shook at the same time. It was a tie. Under the recoil of each of them, the situation was temporarily stagnant. Yan Zheka was about to attack again when she suddenly felt that her body was empty. Her muscles were aching and twitching, which made her realize that her physical strength had reached its limit. According to her current condition, it would be difficult for her to perform a complete 24 blizzard strikes, not to mention that she had just fought a fierce battle. Her last few moves were driven by the borrowed strength. Now that the brutal blizzard was interrupted, she naturally couldn't fight again. Seeing that Feng Xiaoquan had recovered, she raised her right hand and made a gesture of surrendering. There was no disappointment on her face. Instead, a faint smile appeared. If I was at my peak, I might be able to defeat Feng Xiaoquan. Ah, I'm so envious of Cheng. I need to strengthen my physical strength. Looking at the girl's bright smile, Feng Xiaoquan was stunned. Then he heard the referee's announcement. Round 2, Feng Xiaoquan wins. I won just like that? Seeing Yan Zheka turn around and leave, Feng Xiaoquan suddenly felt a little lost. But he quickly recovered. He pinched his right arm and gasped for breath, hoping to recover more strength. The suppression of the 24 blizzard strikes and the last blow of the modern blast punch had consumed a lot of his energy. Lu Cheng saw Yan Zheka walking down the ring amidst the cheers. He spread his arms with a smile and gave her 2 thumbs up, praising her for the perfect timing of the 24 blizzard strikes. Her momentum was full of vigor, and every move was at her fingertips. She didn't stick to the rules. Her fighting style could be said to have reached a higher level. Yan Zheka's eyes slightly curved. She smiled and walked to Lu Cheng. When she was about to open her mouth, her thighs suddenly became weak and she stumbled forward. She was really at her limit. With Lu Cheng by her side, she naturally didn't have to worry about falling. She only saw Lu Cheng sliding over and stretching out his arms to hold her firmly. His chest is so reassuring. As this thought flashed through her mind, the shouts on the stands stopped abruptly. All the spectators were dumbfounded by this scene. At this scene, many male students had a strong idea. Coach, I want to learn martial arts. Okay, everyone is watching. Yan Zheka blushed and broke free. As a coach, Lu Qing knew the next step was the most important. He didn't say much to Yan Zheka, only clenched his fist and reached out to her. Yan Zheka also clenched her fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. She shouted in a low voice, "Victory!" After the ceremony, she walked to the seats of the home team. Guo Qing and Lin Hua had already come to greet her, praising and supporting her. At this time, the three of them saw Li Mao pass by with a slightly pale face. Yan Zheka was about to reach out her right hand and give Li Mao a high five or a fist bump to encourage him, but he ignored her and passed by her. "Li Mao is so nervous," Guo Qing murmured. Lu Cheng also noticed this. His mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do. Nervousness will affect the speed of thinking, but it won't last forever. Li Mao, who is not as nervous as last time, should be able to calm down after a few moves. Can I set a preset program for him like a computer when his thinking is slow? Let him do that without thinking? Fighting is ever-changing. What kind of preset program is suitable? Too simple and useless. Too complex and requires the coordination of thinking. It's a waste of time. While thinking, Lu Cheng observed Feng Xiaoquan's every move on the stage. He was rubbing his right arm and wrist. Obviously, the blast punch collision just now was not easy. He was gasping for breath, which indicated that he had used up a lot of energy. In this case, speed and strength would all be reduced. If it were me, an amateur, facing such an enemy, how would I fight? Lu Cheng gradually had an idea. When Li Mao was about to pass by him, he suddenly pulled him and whispered, "Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing. Slide step to the left, low kick, and then punch." "Ah, okay." Li Mao answered a little stiffly. Lu Cheng didn't let him go. He said in a low voice, "Repeat it. Left, slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left, slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left." Li Mao's memory was not a problem. Very good. If your mind is blank later, use it to replace your thinking and judgment. Lu Cheng reminded him again. Li Mao nodded and stepped up the stone steps. Looking at his back, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and waited for the battle to start. He had taught him the simplest way. He hoped that there would be no accidents. Chapter 154. Walking up the stairs, Li Mao didn't feel as nervous as last time because this was not an important match. It didn't matter even if he lost. Coach sure didn't even show up. But why am I still a little nervous? Why am I still trembling? Is it because of the thousands of people around me? Is it because of Yan Zheka's outstanding performance that I'm under pressure and don't want to ruin the good situation? Or is there no other reason? Is it because I'm born a loser who can't stand big occasions? Why am I so nervous because of my inferiority? Feeling self-deprecating, Li Mao stood opposite Feng Xiaoquan and saw the referee raise his right hand to announce the start of the match. I haven't adjusted yet. With a buzz, he felt himself tense up again. Although his thoughts didn't become sluggish, he couldn't concentrate. At this moment, a sentence suddenly flashed in his mind. Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Li Mao murmured to himself as if he was grasping at the last straw. Feng Xiaoquan stopped gasping for breath. He could feel the obvious nervousness of the enemy in front of him, and he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Good thing it's him. A few days ago, Feng Xiaoquan had thought about Li Mao's performance in the university martial arts competition and was impressed by his stage fright. Therefore, he had made up his mind that once he met this opponent, he would seize the opportunity to attack and not give him a chance to recover. It was a gift from God to meet this nervous brother when he was so exhausted. Round 3, start. The referee didn't give Li Mao time to adjust. As soon as he finished his words, Feng Xiaoquan flapped his muscle wings as if he was stepping on ice and approached his opponent quickly and fiercely. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by forward punch. Li Mao didn't think at all. He followed his instinct and slid to the left to dodge. Then, he tightened his thighs, bent his knees, and kicked out with a low kick, aiming straight for Feng Xiaoquan's joint. Feng Xiaoquan didn't expect this nervous brother to dodge in time. He had to stop his tiger palm cut and turn to twist his waist and swing his leg to block with a side kick. Bang! When they were feet to feet, Li Mao was like a robot. He instinctively adjusted his muscles and borrowed a little strength. He pulled his right arm back and made a fist. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Feng Xiaokuan shook his right arm and punched out with his tiger fist. He did not show any signs of weakness as he met force with force. Bang! Amidst the muffled sound, Feng Xiaokuan felt a soreness in his right arm. He didn't use enough strength, and his opponent forcefully knocked his fist away. Damn it! This is the after effect of the fierce fight. He made a prompt decision. Using his left foot as a fulcrum, he swung his right hand to the side and turned his body around. Li Mao's punch landed, and he seemed to have entered the rhythm of his training. His body instinctively swung back and forth, and once again, he borrowed strength and threw out his left fist, aiming straight for Feng Xiaokuan's wide-open chest. It. Such a simple left slide step, low kick, and forward punch. However, in the current situation, he didn't need to make any complicated analysis, nor did he need to be resolute and decisive. He only needed to use the 24 blizzard strikes skillfully as he did in his usual training. Bang! Feng Xiaokuan twisted his back, rotated his shoulders, clenched his left fist, and hammered down. He blocked Li Mao's mountain splitter. Li Mao's mind gradually became clear and his attention was focused. He felt the rhythm of the game was so good. It made him feel like he was back in the practice field. The familiar environment could effectively reduce the tension. He swung his left fist back and let the strength flow into his spine and to the soles of his feet. Then with his back as the axis, he whipped his leg towards Feng Xiaokuan's lower body. Seeing this, Lu Cheng was relieved and happy for Li Mao. He didn't stay on the sidelines and went back to the coach's seat. Feng Xiaokuan, on the other hand, was quite annoyed. Knowing that he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes again, he no longer hesitated and gave a whip kick. Then he took a deep breath, his face turned red, and his temples bulged. Boom! Feng Xiaokuan seemed to have a gunpowder explosion in his body. He spurted his right fist to counterattack. Li Mao, who gradually got used to the game atmosphere, could make simple and quick judgments. He knew his opponent was exhausted, so he didn't avoid the attack. He wrapped the borrowed strength and hammered down hard. Bang! Both of them shook their center of gravity and took a step back. Feng Xiaokuan took the opportunity to use the crane steps and flashed to Li Mao's side. He clenched his fist into a tiger claw and chopped down. If it had been the Li Mao from a few moves ago, he would have had no choice but to take this attack head-on. But now, he lowered his center of gravity as he raised his right arm. Bam! Just as the tiger fist hit his right arm, Feng Xiaokuan suddenly changed his crane beak and used the force to jump and peck at Li Mao's temple. Li Mao bent his knee and lowered his center of gravity as his right arm was hit. He lowered his body and avoided Feng Xiaokuan's crane beak. At the same time, he exerted force with his left foot and turned his body into a cannonball, crashing into Feng Xiaokuan's chest and abdomen. Feng Xiaokuan didn't take it head-on. He stepped on the crane steps and dodged nimbly. He changed his position and attacked again. Within a minute, he launched a series of attacks. However, Li Mao, who had already calmed down, seemed to have returned to the dead of winter. He had returned to the days when he had endured the darkness, faced the cold wind, listened to the sound of firecrackers, and trained hard. He no longer panicked. Every move he made was full of posture, and his defense was watertight. It was in this month that he really mastered the 24 blizzard strikes. As they fought, Li Mao suddenly found that Feng Xiaokuan's strength had weakened a lot. There was also a sluggishness in his steps. He had reached his limit. Once he made the judgment, Li Mao didn't think too much to avoid hesitation. He immediately slid and pounced on his opponent. Feng Xiaokuan's heart tightened. He abandoned all distracting thoughts. He straightened his spine and wriggled his waist. He raised his hands and turned them into the wings of a red-crowned crane. He fiercely hit Li Mao's temples on both sides. When his palms were about to hit his opponent's raised arms, he suddenly lifted his hips and changed his center of gravity. He assumed the posture of a golden rooster standing on one leg. His right foot kicked out silently like a tiger's stomp. Tiger crane combined attack. Li Mao had just blocked the attack of the red-crowned crane when he saw the enemy's right foot coming at him. He couldn't resist and had to curl up and roll on the ground. While rolling, he felt quite sad. He finally could play normally, but he seemed to have fallen into the enemy's trap and was about to fail. At this moment, Li Mao suddenly realized that Feng Xiaokuan didn't catch up in time and left a gap for him. Was he really tired? Was that the last counterattack? While thinking, Li Mao straightened his back and stood up again. Facing Feng Xiaokuan, who had just approached him, he put his feet inward and drove his spine. He fiercely threw a blast punch. Bang! Feng Xiaokuan raised his right arm and blocked in time, but his body couldn't help but shake. Obviously, he had reached his limit. Li Mao didn't spare him and threw another punch. Bang! Feng Xiaokuan's hands were weak and his stance was broken. Li Mao's eyes were almost red. He slid closer, leaned his body and fiercely hit him. Feng Xiaokuan leaned back and tried to dodge, but his body was empty. He couldn't maintain his center of gravity and fell down. Li Mao rushed up, tightened his thighs, bounced his knees, and kicked out the tip of his foot, stopping at Feng Xiaokuan's throat. Round 3, Li Mao wins. The referee raised his right hand and announced the result. I won. I won. Li Mao couldn't believe his ears. In an instant, he seemed to have returned to the university martial arts competition. At that time, he failed to live up to everyone's expectations and was easily defeated because of nervousness. Now, did I finally win? At this moment, many images flashed in front of Li Mao's eyes. There was Chen Zhonghua's disappointed and bleeding fist, Lin Kei's pain covered with a hot towel, Coach Shi's words of encouragement, his annoyance again and again, the hard training day after day with clenched teeth, the bone-chilling winter wind, the silence in the darkest hours of the morning, and the scene where Lu Cheng and the others carefully took care of his emotions and racked their brains to help him relieve his nervousness. In the cheers of the whole stadium, he couldn't help but turn to look at the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. There Lu Cheng was holding Yan Zhika's hand, Yan Zhika was holding Guo Qing was holding Li Xiaowen was holding Lin Hua was holding Sun Jian, and Sun Jian was holding Lin Quebec. When Li Mao looked at them, they raised their hands at the same time and shouted, Li Mao, come on! Li Mao's eyes turned red and tears flowed out uncontrollably. He knew that he was locked on by the big screen and everyone could see the details, but his vision couldn't be blurred. An 8-foot man was crying like a child at this moment. Chapter 155. Li Mao wasn't a pretty girl like Yan Zhika, and he wasn't as famous as Lin Quebec. His classmates only cared about whether he had won or not. They weren't curious about him at all and didn't want to find out more about him. It wasn't until they saw him crying like a child that they started to be surprised and their emotions were aroused. It's just an ordinary preliminaries. Is there a need to cry like this? Some people in the audience were confused and felt that Li Mao's reaction was too exaggerated. There were also some students who suddenly remembered the trash that they had cursed and scolded last year. They recognized the tearful Li Mao and said, Hey, I know him. Last year, at the critical moment of the martial arts club's group advancement, he was the one who was trampled on like a wooden stake and ruined our absolute advantage. I almost cried because of him. Yes. He's that nervous bro. Some of the students were immediately enlightened. It wasn't until now that they understood why Li Mao was crying. It was a sign that he had drawn a clear line with his past. It was a heavy burden that had been lifted from his heart. It was a sign that he had made up for some of his mistakes. It was a sign that he was grateful to his companions for not abandoning him. It was easy to win against others, but difficult to win against oneself. The students who understood the whole story felt a little warm and a little sour. One of them thought of his stage fright and raised his hand, shouting loudly, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. You can do it, Li Mao. While the audience was crying in surprise and forgot to cheer, this high-pitched voice pierced the silence and rang in many people's ears. The rest of the students who had mixed feelings just now seemed to have received a call. They all raised their hands and shouted in unison, You can do it, Li Mao. These voices converged into a torrent, driving the whole audience and creating a roar that almost blew the roof off. You can do it, Li Mao. The tsunami-like cheers echoed in Li Mao's ears, blurring his vision with tears. He reached out and covered his face, murmuring in a low voice, Thank you, thank you. Feng Xiaokuan climbed up from the ground and looked around in confusion. He didn't know why the audience suddenly burst out with more enthusiasm than before. His heart was sullen and unwilling to accept the result of the previous match. If he hadn't used up so much energy in the previous match, he wouldn't have suddenly felt empty after using the tiger and crane combined attack. There shouldn't have been a pause, which ruined the victory that was so easy to obtain. The reason why he consumed so much energy in the previous match was because his fighting style was too aggressive. He didn't take advantage of the crane steps, and gave Yen Zheka a chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. The reason why his fighting style became aggressive was because he wanted to help his sweetheart get revenge and save her face. Thinking of this, Feng Xiaoquan had nowhere to vent his grievances and unwillingness. He turned his head and walked down the stone steps in a daze, unwilling to stay a second longer. At this moment, he realized that Chen Ruoyu was whispering something into Jiang Dingyi's ear. She was very close to him and her attitude was very intimate. His heart and face sank at the same time. He saw Jiang Dingyi stood up like an iron tower and walked towards him. "What did Ruoyu say to you just now?" Feng Xiaoquan couldn't help but ask when they were about to pass each other. Jiang Dingyi smiled slightly and said, "She said Li Mao consumed a lot of energy and asked me to take advantage of my strength and force him to fight and end it quickly." "Take advantage of your strength," Feng Xiaoquan murmured. The haze between his eyebrows became more obvious. He was angry that he was looked down upon and also sad that his sweetheart didn't like him. When he returned to his seat, he saw Chen Ruoyu's tight face and tight lips. She was nervous, expectant, and a little depressed. His mood suddenly softened and he said softly, "With old Jiang, we can definitely win." Chen Ruoyu turned her eyes and looked at him in surprise. "I hope so. You can't lose to the substitute of Songqing University Martial Arts Club." How long had it been since Xiaoquan called him Old Jiang? At this moment, she suddenly blamed herself. Because of her greed, selfishness, vanity, and hesitation, the two boys who played together since childhood were like strangers. The thought flashed and was quickly thrown to the back of her mind. Her attention returned to the current competition. She wanted to win like never before. Songqing University Martial Arts Club didn't send any main force. Even the real coach didn't come. If she and others lost the competition, how could she face Jiangdong's parents? She formed the dream squad, not to enjoy being surrounded and play house like a child. She wanted to prove to those who thought she was spoiled that she could also do it and rely on herself. "I'm not a child anymore. I have dreams too." At Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats, Lu Cheng and the other members cheered for Li Mao in the form of a crowd. Then they let go of their hands and returned to their seats. Sun Jian had just sat down when he suddenly remembered something. He stood up abruptly, walked to Lu Cheng, and leaned close to him. "Cheng, no, Coach Lu. What did you say to Li Mao just now? What secret did you teach him? He actually managed to get over the initial nervousness? I really admire you now. I feel that you have some kind of magical power. You whispered something to Yen Zheka, and she won when she just entered the arena. Then you whispered something to Li Mao, and he won when he was overly nervous. You also whispered something to him. Why don't you whisper something to me later?" Looking at Sun Jian's curious and expectant face and feeling Yen Zheka's gaze, Lu Cheng chuckled and said, "What I said to Senior Li Mao was, front back back up down left right low heavy leg followed by light punch. What the hell is that?" Sun Jian blurted out with a blank face. Lu Cheng looked at Yen Zheka's confused expression and chuckled, "Make a move. Make a big move. Stop joking." Sun Jian finally realized that he was fooled by Lu Cheng while Yen Zheka gently pinched Lu Cheng's thigh. Lu Cheng stopped laughing and said, "Actually, it's more or less the same. I think Feng Xiaoquan wants to catch Senior Li Mao's nervousness and will attack first. His right hand has been hit by Yen Zheka twice. Although it won't be injured, it will affect his ability to use force without enough time to recover. So I told Senior Li Mao not to think about anything else. Just slide to the left, kick to the bottom, and punch to the right. After a few moves like this, as long as he hasn't lost, Senior Li Mao should be able to recover." Yen Zheka felt proud of what he said and the sweet dimples on her cheeks appeared again. "I see. It's quite suitable for Li Mao's situation. But the premise is that your vision is sharp enough, you are experienced enough, and you have a good grasp of Feng Xiaoquan's mind." Sun Jian sighed and admired Lu Cheng more and more. Lu Cheng said modestly, "It doesn't matter if I'm wrong. There won't be a worse result." Yen Zheka empathized with her boyfriend's praise. She quietly lowered her right hand and held Lu Cheng's left hand. Lu Cheng caught her hand and scratched her palm. "Then what did you say to your girlfriend?" Sun Jian was still curious. A rookie who just entered the arena for the first time actually won a clean victory after a series of mistakes.
I told her that I would lend her my strength.
Lu Cheng didn't want others to think that Yan Zheke won because of his guidance. He started to talk nonsense with a serious face. This kind of thing should be known by the girl herself. Yan Zheke almost burst out laughing. She was a little touched and opened her right hand, clasping it tightly with Lu Cheng's.
Really?
Sun Jian obviously didn't believe it. Lu Cheng laughed and said, "Of course it's true. This is called encouragement of love. You and senior sister Lin are an old couple, so you won't understand." Sun Jian looked at him disdainfully and nodded slightly, half believing and half doubting. Yan Zheke blushed and hummed, turning her head back to the arena. At this time, Jiang Dingy had already stood in front of Li Mao and the referee had also raised his right hand. Sun Jian didn't return to his seat but just stood beside Lu Cheng and watched. Li Mao quickly wiped away his tears.
He felt that the heavy burden in his heart had been completely washed away by the crying just now.
This cleared up his emotions and made him feel relaxed.
I just need to exhaust him.
He secretly made a decision.
In the competition just now, he was carrying a heavy burden in the battle, so his consumption was more than doubled.
Now he was almost an arrow at the end of its flight.
The referee waved his right hand. The fourth round start.
Jiang Dingy was nearly 1.9 meters tall and his skin was bronze. He didn't look like a young man under 20 years old at all. At this time, he closed the distance between them in 2 big strides. His right arm tightened and made a chopping posture in front of him. Li Mao took action immediately.
He twisted his waist and shook out his right arm so that his fist was like the tip of a spear to his opponent, making a crisp sound of tearing the airflow.
Jiang Dingy's chopping right hand suddenly stopped. It turned out to be a feint to trick Li Mao into attacking first. After that, he directly urged the strength of his shoulder joint and elbow joint and quickly chopped his opponent's wrist fiercely. Earth-cracking palm.
Bang!
Li Mao's wrist wasn't the strongest point of force. After being chopped by Jiang Dingy, he suddenly felt a sharp pain and withdrew his right hand like an electric shock. But because of this, he borrowed a little strength and slipped to the right side of his opponent. Enduring the pain that hadn't disappeared yet, he fiercely punched Jiang Dingy's waist with his left hand. Jiang Dingy lowered his body and bent his back. His right elbow hit out horizontally and blocked Li Mao's fist in the form of a hilt.
Bang!
In the dull sound, Jiang Dingy used his elbow as the fulcrum, his arm as the blade and his palm as the tip to make a diagonal chopping. Li Mao held his elbow and bounced his back. He dodged again and came to the back of his opponent. When he was about to launch an attack, Jiang Dingy suddenly twisted his waist and pulled back his leg, sweeping backward and sideways.
Bang!
Jiang Dingy's kick was so powerful that it kept exploding in the air and fiercely whipped to Li Mao. Li Mao quickly lowered his shoulders and made a stance to block the kick.
Bang!
Under the collision, Li Mao only felt that his body was weak for a while.
He couldn't continue his strength and was swept to lose his center of gravity and staggered to the side.
Jiang Dingy pulled back his leg and touched the ground. When he was about to attack, Li Mao, who had just recovered his center of gravity, didn't try to stabilize his body. He kicked his feet and counterattacked. "I'm close to the limit. I must exhaust him."
Only this thought was echoing in his mind at this time.
Facing this kind of hurried counterattack, Jiang Dingy didn't avoid at all. He raised his left arm and blocked Li Mao's right fist. He lifted his left foot and leaned his body. His right hand seemed to be holding a sharp knife and fiercely stabbed to his opponent's abdomen. Li Mao put his left hand close to his body to block, contracted his abdomen, and bounced his waist and back. Unexpectedly, he ignored Jiang Dingy's hand and bumped his left arm and left shoulder, trying to penetrate the city wall with a crossbow that was close to its limit.
Bang!
Jiang Dingy endured the pain and seized the opportunity to hold Li Mao's body. Then he tripped him and lifted him up and heavily threw him to the ground.
Thump!
Li Mao was dizzy and couldn't stand up for a while. The referee glanced at them and announced the result. The fourth round, Jiang Dingy wins. Jiang Dingy rubbed his left shoulder and looked at Li Mao with complex eyes. He didn't expect that his opponent would fight so hard that he was hit by Li Mao carelessly. Fortunately, his opponent's strength was exhausted and he was not injured. Seeing this, Lu Qing sighed and whispered in Sun Jian's ear, "Senior brother Sun, you are experienced and not afraid of the stage. I have nothing to say." But since you insist, I will say something. First, attack the left side violently. What's the second? Sun Jian asked curiously.
Lu Cheng smiled and said, the second? F***ck him to death.
Sun Jian couldn't help laughing at first.
Then he put on a serious face, clenched his fist and growled, F***ck him to death.
Chapter 156.
F***ck him to death.
As the words left his mouth, Sun Jian felt himself brimming with battle intent. Even his emotions were in high spirits. He took a step forward and walked towards the arena, only to see Li Mao struggling to get up. Li Mao shook his head and walked back, swaying unsteadily. When he met Li Mao, who was still a little dizzy, Sun Jian took the initiative to stretch out his fist and said sincerely, "Good job." Li Mao instinctively straightened his back and couldn't hide his smile. He clenched his fist and lightly bumped with Sun Jian's to complete the ceremony. "Senior brother Sun, come on." Sun Jian nodded. He passed by Li Mao and saw the road leading to glory and glory. "This is the last battle of this game. Let me end it. This time, I'm not just going to make a pose." Sun Jian suddenly had some feelings when he went up along the stone steps. He was born in a professor's family. He was promoted to the university where his father studied through the affiliated kindergarten, affiliated primary school, affiliated middle school and key high school. He hardly suffered any setbacks and was never bullied by his classmates. At first, his purpose of learning martial arts was purely to show off in front of his childhood friends. Later, he used it to escape his father's increasingly higher requirements and took the martial arts club as his refuge to get peace and freedom. With such a mentality, of course he wouldn't have stage fright. But on the other hand, he didn't have the tenacity to face difficulties. When he shouted, F***ck him to death, just now, he felt that his gentle and well-educated appearance was torn off and the barbarism hidden deep in his heart was awakened. He had the impulse to challenge the big devil. When he stepped onto the arena and saw the 1.9 m tall iron tower, Sun Jian instantly felt that he was very small and insignificant. He had no choice but to look up at his opponent. It was just like how he usually looked up at his father, who was the leader of his subjects. In his heart, Sun Jian was so high that he could not look up to him, but also so fearsome. Sun Jian's frown, seriousness, and orders had created a deep shadow in his heart. He couldn't challenge the authority and was unwilling to do as he was told. Then he could only escape. Now, he didn't want to be like this anymore. He had to face it eventually. Looking at the tall and mighty Zhang Dingy who seemed to be invincible, he roared secretly, F***ck him to death. Lu Cheng didn't know anything about Sun Jian's psychological changes. He was very relaxed now and didn't have too much expectation for the final result. He was already satisfied with the development of today's matches. Yan Zhaka had won the match on her first appearance and accumulated experience in dealing with dangerous situations. Li Mao had finally defeated the devil in his heart and obtained the victory he had been dreaming of. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? As for the final victory, it would be the most dazzling jewel at the top of the crown. It would be good to have it, but not having it would not damage the essence of the crown. At this moment, Li Mao returned to his seat amidst the applause and stopped in front of Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng extended his right hand and clenched it into a fist. "You can do it." Li Mao's eyes reddened again. He reached out his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. "Thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me." Lu Cheng wanted to recall some famous sayings to encourage senior brother Li Mao. If he couldn't remember, he would make one up himself. But the referee on the arena didn't give him the chance. After Zhang Dingy and Sun Jian stood in their respective positions, the referee waved his right hand and announced the start of the last match. Sun Jian had more actual matches than Lu Cheng, so he knew to attack Zhang Dingy's left shoulder, which was hit by Li Mao without Lu Cheng's reminder. When the word start reverberated, he suddenly bent down and moved to the enemy's left side quickly with snake steps. Straightening his spine, Sun Jian tightened his right leg and pulled it out, kicking toward Zhang Dingy's left knee. Zhang Dingy was good at strength but not flexible enough. He didn't compete with Sun Jian in body movement. Facing this, he quickly visualized the scene of the ground cracking and the volcano erupting in his mind. The trousers on his thighs suddenly straightened, outlining his well-defined muscles. Bam! A side kick bounced out with earth-shattering momentum, and arrived first, colliding head-on with Sun Jian's whip kick. Bang! Sun Jian swung his right leg back. He felt sore at the place where the leg hit and almost lost his center of gravity. This made him deeply feel the gap in strength between them. Purely speaking of physical strength, he was weaker than Jiang Dingy, but Jiang Dingy also mastered meditation and had a short burst of visualization. Sun Jian gritted his teeth and didn't let the depression affect him. He stepped back with his right foot and straightened his back. Then his right fist suddenly hit Jiang Dingy's left shoulder like a cannonball. He and Li Mao's 24 blizzard strikes were not in meditation and did not have the corresponding visualization method to coordinate. They could only rely on their experience and feelings to barely borrow a little strength during the process. It could be considered as mastery but not mastery. Therefore, once they encountered a situation where the enemy's strength was too great, there would be problems in the connection of the moves. They could not complete the borrowing of strength and could not make the fight more fierce and crazy. Just now, Li Mao was facing Feng Xiaoquan, who was exhausted and weakened in all aspects, so he barely used 24 blizzard strikes. But now Sun Jian obviously couldn't imitate his junior brother. But he also had his own advantages, that was, he could fiercely attack the injured part of the enemy. Jiang Dingy did not move his left shoulder, but simply used his right foot as a fulcrum to turn his body backward. At the same time, he straightened his right hand into a palm knife and fiercely chopped down in front of him. It happened to hit Sun Jian's fist. Sun Jian's right arm bounced back and quickly retracted his attack. Sun Jian didn't feel annoyed. Instead, he was a little bit happy. Did Jiang Dingy's performance just now mean that his left shoulder was seriously injured and it was almost impossible for him to use his left hand? He slid his feet and went to the left side of Jiang Dingy. Then he opened his left hand and grabbed Jiang Dingy's left hand like a fierce claw. Once Jiang Dingy grabbed Jiang Dingy's left hand, he would immediately break the tendons and dislocate the bones. Sun Jian was different from Li Mao and other members of the martial arts club who came from ordinary families. In the past, he had hired famous teachers to practice martial arts, so there were more than just 24 blizzard strikes. If he practiced the flower-splitting willow hand to a deep level, he could almost make the enemy lose an arm by grabbing and tearing. Jiang Dingy's expression didn't change. He wriggled his spine and bounced his back to the right side to avoid Sun Jian's grab. Sun Jian was happy in his heart, so he directly caught up with Jiang Dingy and attacked Jiang Dingy's left side continuously. Jiang Dingy used his legs to resist, sometimes changed his body shape, and sometimes dodged. But he couldn't get rid of Sun Jian and was gradually forced to the edge of the ring. When Sun Jian was about to kill him while he was sick, Jiang Dingy's legs suddenly stopped like two nails firmly nailed to the edge of the arena. His body suddenly turned around with the help of the rebound force. He raised his left arm and turned it into a guandao with the help of visualization. Then he swept it out in a horrible way. At this moment, he was like a general who was riding a horse to war, dragging a guandao and being chased by the enemy. Suddenly he tightened the reins of the horse, so that the horse stopped abruptly and raised its front hooves. Then he took advantage of the force to counterattack and unexpectedly cut the enemy who was chasing him. The guandao style. Jiang Dingy had been waiting for this opportunity to cut Sun Jian under his horse for a long time. Sun Jian rushed so hard that he couldn't avoid it. He could only take a breath forcibly and raised his left arm to block on his side. Bang! Jiang Dingy's left hand fiercely cut Sun Jian's left arm. The guandao style, which had been accumulating power for a long time, showed an amazing power and directly whipped Sun Jian into the air. Flying! Yan Zheka held Lu Cheng's left hand tightly and her beautiful eyes were full of worries. She hoped that everything could be perfect today. When she won, the martial arts club could also win the game. Senior brother Sun took the initiative to fly. Lu Cheng stared at the ring and comforted the girl. Sun Jian flew out. When he was about to land, he suddenly stretched out his hands and pressed on the ground with the strength of his fascia joints. Bang! His body suddenly bounced to another direction, and narrowly avoided Jiang Dingy's guandao style which followed closely. In the bouncing, Sun Jian turned over in the air and landed on the ground with both feet. Then he bounced again to change his position, and finally stabilized his center of gravity. Catapult body movement. It was a martial art which was as famous as the modern blast fist and gun finger. It imitated the jump attack of the bullet. In the previous attack, if Sun Jian didn't fly out, his left arm would at least be fractured. It could be seen that the Guandao style was horrible after it broke out. As soon as Sun Jian steadied himself, he saw Jiang Dingyi pouncing on him aggressively. He didn't choose to avoid. Instead, he clenched his teeth and went to him directly. There was only one thought in his mind. I don't believe that your left arm is fine after being hit by Li Mao and using such a fierce Guandao style. I can't give him a chance to recover. Facing this, Jiang Dingyi's face finally changed slightly. They approached each other instantly. Sun Jian ducked and dodged to the side of the enemy. Then he used his hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders and other body parts to attack the enemy directly, as if he was practicing with a wooden man. Bang 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 bang, they kept fighting with each other. The fierce battle made the audience break out in cold sweat. When Sun Jian thought that he was going to be crushed by the enemy's strength, he suddenly found that the enemy's left arm movement was half a beat slower. He didn't have time to think carefully. He pushed his elbow horizontally and took advantage of the situation to attack. Puff! His elbow hit Jiang Dingyi's left arm, which was not strong enough, leaving a big gap on the side of his body. Chance! Sun Jian had no time to think carefully about the battle situation. Following his instinct, he straightened his elbow and threw out his forearm with the help of the rebound force and the joint force. Bang! His forearm with his fist hit Jiang Dingyi's ribs on the side. The strength was not too great, but it made the enemy scream and shrink his body suddenly. Sun Jian didn't show any mercy. He blocked the counterattack with his right hand, opened his left fist and caught the enemy. Then he took a step with his right foot and put it between Jiang Dingyi's legs. At this time, there was only one thought in his mind. F***ck him to death. Damn! He suddenly exerted his strength and threw his opponent to the edge of the ring not far away with his right leg as the fulcrum. Thump! Jiang Dingyi fell down with his back on the ground, accompanied by the audience's surprise and shouts. Sun Jian gasped and raised his right hand. He shouted secretly in his heart. Cool! The referee also raised his right hand and announced the result. Round 5, Sun Jian wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Chapter 157. The spectators who were breaking out in cold sweat heaved a sigh of relief. The whole stadium was filled with thunderous cheers for the long-awaited victory in this martial arts arena. Although they did not prepare trumpets or other items to assist them, they still created a lively atmosphere. Qian Ruoyu was in the midst of it. Her face was extremely ugly. She felt wronged and angry. She wanted to leave without a second more. I'm an adult, not a spoiled child. I have to bear the responsibility for what I did. She bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth and secretly prepared herself. She didn't turn around and leave but waited for Jiang Dingyi's return. Jiang Dingyi was also quite depressed at this moment. He was unwilling to admit defeat. His meditation was not deep enough and had not reached the level where he could control the details of his muscles. He was unable to forcefully pull back his center of gravity at the crucial moment and dodge. His fighting style was not guerrilla warfare. After being forced into close combat by Sun Jian, the numbness and pain in his left shoulder were magnified to the extreme. This was the cause of his defeat in an instant. If only I was not careless and bumped into Li Mao, he thought in annoyance. He felt that he had no face-to-face Qian Ruoyu and his footsteps became slower. When he walked back to the Dream Squad seating area, Qian Ruoyu took a deep breath and said, "The main reason for today's loss is me. Dingyi, Xiaofan, if you guys were at your peak condition when facing Sun Jian and Li Mao, your chances of winning would definitely be above 80%. I underestimated the enemy and lost to Yan Zhaka too quickly. You guys had no choice but to exhaust yourselves in advance, which led to the loss. It's my fault. I apologize to everyone." After hearing Qian Ruoyu's words, not only Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan, but even Yu Qiao and the other substitutes were stunned. They did not expect the proud little princess to not lose her temper and vent her anger on others. Instead, she started to reflect on herself. Was this considered a little more mature? Feng Xiaoquan came back to his senses and immediately comforted her. "Ruoyu, it's not your fault. Our main failure was due to the lack of equal information. Yan Zhaka of Songqing University Martial Arts Club hit her strength too well. No one would have thought that she had already achieved a small success in meditation and reached a higher level in 24 blizzard strikes. Yes, None of us expected this, Jiang Dingy said.
Qian Ruoyu felt better in her heart. She was touched and her eyes were red and about to cry. She took a deep breath, steadied her emotions, and pointed to the other side of the ring.
Even if we lose, we don't want to lose face. Let's go over and say hello, lest others say that we don't have a good upbringing. Generally speaking, after the entire battle in the group arena had ended, both parties would have to meet and greet each other as a sign of politeness. However, this would often not happen. Of course, the victor would be happy to do so, but how could the loser be in the mood to do so? Lu Qing imitated the professional martial arts competition he had watched and led the home team to clap their hands towards the stands as a sign of gratitude for their support. Waves of enthusiastic applause and cheers followed. At this moment, he saw Qian Ruoyu and the others coming over, so he called Sun Jian, Li Mao and Yan Zheka to welcome them. Qian Ruoyu glanced at the pure and beautiful Yan Zheka, then turned to Lu Cheng and exhaled. You guys played very well today. Lu Cheng was in a good mood and naturally became modest. He pointed at his girlfriend and smiled. It's mainly because we have a secret weapon that caused you to misjudge. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win. This was the truth. If both parties were to compare one-on-one, their own team was indeed inferior. Yan Zheka, who was praised, was proud, happy and shy. She glanced at Lu Cheng and turned her head to look to the side. Her expression couldn't be hidden from the observant people, which made Yu Qiao, Feng Xiaokuan and the others secretly sigh. Beauties are indeed taken. To Lu Cheng, a strong professional ninth pin at 19 years old might not be eye-catching, but to reach such a level in just half a year, people couldn't help but take him seriously. Therefore, they didn't feel like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. They just felt that it was as it should be. Hearing Lu Cheng's honest words, Qian Ruoyu's mood eased a lot, and her self-reproach also lessened a lot. She revealed a faint smile and said, based on your current performance, there's really hope for you guys to advance from the group stage. I wish you guys better and better. Lu Cheng also smiled and replied, then we wish you guys better and improve in every match. Qian Ruoyu suddenly felt that this person wasn't bad, and regained some of her spirits. She thanked him and then led the Dream Squad back to the away team's changing room. Yan Zheka looked at their backs, rolled her eyes and sighed. Not as delicate as I thought. Speaking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. Also not as turbulent as I thought. She vaguely felt a little regretful that she didn't see the real-life version of the melodramatic emotional entanglement. Yeah. Lu Cheng turned his head to look at her, and also felt a little regretful. Sun Jian and Li Mao didn't know anything about the gossip of the Dream Squad. After hearing Yan Zheka's words, they were at a loss. When they saw her and Lu Cheng looking at each other tacitly and smiling, as if they had a common little secret, they curled their lips and turned to leave. Let's go back to the changing room. Lu Cheng smiled and held Yan Zheka's little hand, declaring his sovereignty in front of thousands of people. Yan Zheka blushed slightly, but still generously let him hold her hand. She wanted to use this to get rid of any pursuits that might arise from today's competition. That was too annoying. Songqing University was a school with strict management. Although there was no lack of couples getting close to each other, they usually did so in the woods by the lake or on the streets. No one had ever held hands in front of so many people. Seeing this scene, many of the students had the urge to kick up a fuss. Some whistled, and some shouted loudly. The scene suddenly became interesting. Yan Zheka shyly lowered her head, quickened her pace, and hurried to the changing room. When she was about to reach the door, she realized that Lu Cheng suddenly stopped beside her. She raised her head and saw Geezer Shi drinking wine at the door. Coach Shi, why are you here? Didn't you have something to do at the last minute? Lu Cheng was equally surprised. Geezer Shi chuckled. If I didn't have something to do at the last minute, where would you get the chance to be in the limelight? If I were here, I don't know how nervous Li Mao would be. Besides, I'm old. I've been away from you youngsters for too long. I really don't know how to encourage you guys. Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka suddenly understood Coach Shi's good intentions. Let me borrow your boyfriend for a few minutes. I have something to tell him. Geezer Shi looked at Yan Zheka with a smile. Yan Zheka was embarrassed and annoyed by the elder's teasing. She let go of her right hand and ran into the changing room without looking back. Lu Cheng followed Geezer Shi to a secluded corner of the changing room.
He smiled easily and said, I really thought you had something to do at the last minute, master. He thought they had found the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal. Geezer sure laughed and looked at Lu Cheng.
What did you think I had to do?
Well, didn't you mention last time that some friends came from afar to find the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal? I thought they finally found it and invited you to help. Lu Cheng was excited and wanted to take this opportunity to inquire. Geezer sure took a sip of wine and chuckled. They did find it. Last night, they invited me to explore Xiaofan Lake. In the end, it was just a villa with nothing. Xiaofan Lake? Isn't it Wuxia Lake? Lu Cheng was stunned. He felt that his master and his friends had mistakenly fallen for it. Geezer sure looked at him and said, Do you feel relieved after hearing this? Lu Cheng was stunned at first. Then all the hair on his body stood up and his whole body tightened. What does master mean? Does he know that I have the gene Dan? Geezer sure chuckled and said, Brat, don't be nervous. Humans, unless they are really the best or the second best, grow up with a little bit of luck. The only difference is when you get it. Just like the golden scales, you can only turn into a real dragon after encountering a storm. As your master, I have lived for a long time. What have I not seen and what have I not experienced? Why would I care about your little luck? Little adventure? Lu Cheng was stunned. He calmed down a little and said, Master, when did you know? I only guessed it last night. Geezer sure smiled proudly. Half a year ago, on the day of the Martial Arts Club's welcoming day, I felt a strange power fluctuation near Wuxia Lake. Unfortunately, it was a little far and I didn't find anything when I went there. After that, you showed a strong talent for meditation and seemingly unlimited physical strength. You displayed the frost force but awakened the power of flame. These things don't mean much when you look at them alone or put them together. After all, there are plenty of martial artists who awaken their talents later in life. But last night, when we explored the Longhu Immortal's side residence, I found out that he used ice and fire to imitate yin and yang to form the core. I immediately understood. Damn it, that's the only way to awaken the frost flame. Thus, I linked everything together and went to explore the Wuxia Lake alone. I found this thing. Hee, stinking brat, I've walked on more bridges than you have walked on. Do you really think you can hide it from me? I'm a martial artist with physical invulnerability. Cultivation is just a reference for me. What do you have to be afraid of? Geezer sure fished out a half-burnt and half-frozen white bone carp from his pocket. With a casual shake of his hand, the carp turned into powder. Indeed, the older the ginger, the wiser. Lu Cheng listened with admiration and fear. He confessed, Master, you guessed right. I was training by the lake and happened to encounter this carp. I got a little of Longhu Immortal's legacy from it. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but ask, Master, I've improved by leaps and bounds because of Longhu Immortal's legacy. Are you disappointed? Fortunately, I've seen the perseverance, temperament and fighting talent you've shown in the past 6 months. I'm satisfied. You're not the kind of person who's frivolous because of an adventure. Geezer sure nodded slightly and said, I didn't find Longhu Immortal's villa in Wuxia Lake. It seems that there's something fishy there. You can consider this matter after you've completely digested the legacy. Lu Cheng thought for a while and took the initiative to ask, but digesting it is very dangerous. Every time I awaken it, I'll suffer a backlash. Master, do you have any ideas? He tacitly agreed that Geezer sure knew that he had obtained the gene Dan. Seeing that his master was kind and not greedy, the worry and haze that had been hidden in his heart for half a year suddenly dissipated.
Chapter 158. Backlash. Geezer sure was unusually serious.
He chewed on the word and asked, Let me ask you something. Do you want to be a martial artist or a cultivator in the future? Once you enter the high-ranked Dan stage, you can't regret it. Lu Cheng grew up watching professional martial arts competitions and was influenced by them day and night. He had a dream and a pure and passionate love. He answered without hesitation, Of course I want to be a martial artist. More importantly, the inheritance of the cultivators had been cut off. Relying on the records left behind to practice was twice the effort and half the effort. On the contrary, on the road of martial arts, there were teachers to guide you, lovers to consult, and so on.
There were tons of relevant materials and companions to learn from and discuss with. Very good. Geezer sure praised and said, then you must always remember that martial arts is the main thing and cultivation is the secondary thing. Stones from other mountains can be used to improve jade, but it doesn't mean that it can be the jade you want. On the road of cultivation, the most taboo is to be indecisive, unwilling to make a choice, and unable to distinguish between priorities. Okay, tell me how you use it to digest it. Lu Cheng said carefully, it can help me recover from fatigue. I use this to constantly squeeze myself and improve my physical strength. Before he could finish, Geezer sure said unhappily, sure enough. Back then, this old man was out of breath because of you. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's explanation, he sighed and said, not bad. You know how to purposefully use the adventure to improve your own ability instead of relying purely on the adventure. With such a temperament and willpower, I didn't take you as my disciple in vain. Hey, continue. Didn't you interrupt me? Lu Cheng complained in his heart. After thinking about what he had just said, he said, it can also help me enter meditation and let me quickly conceal spirit and qi. After half a year of hard practice, I can enter meditation skillfully without it. I'm even close to the level of Deshang, but I still can't achieve inward vision. Geezer sure nodded slightly to confirm but didn't interrupt. In addition to these 2 points, when I use it to the limit, its balance will be broken and a little power will leak out. After the backlash, it will merge into my body and create a supernatural ability. Lu Cheng said honestly, the first time it backfired, I almost died in Yanling. It's a bit like the physical invulnerability stage. Geezer sure said thoughtfully, Longhu Immortal emphasizes the balance of ice and fire. The backlash of awakening the supernatural ability should be similar to the first time. With your current physical condition you can try it. Lu Cheng said weakly, I've tried it. It's similar to the backlash of awakening the supernatural ability of flame. The corner of Geezer sure's mouth twitched. He was both annoyed and amused at the same time. Brat, you've grown up. In philosophical terms, your subjective initiative is really strong. Master, you also know philosophy? Lu Cheng evaded the main point and dwelling on the trivial. Do you think I'm illiterate? Since you've already awakened the Frost special ability, I'll be able to teach you a few things after your arm recovers. As for the second round of awakening, don't be anxious. Wait until your fleshly body's blood and qi reaches the peak of the body refinement realm, and you'll be able to release and retract it freely before you attempt it. At that time, remember to look for me. With me watching over you, no matter how bad it is, I'll be able to protect your little life. Tiske. Young people nowadays are so stupid and bold. Lu Cheng felt guilty and didn't dare to respond. For the time being, you should digest it at your own pace. Let me think about how to extract the essence and discard the impurities, and integrate the things of cultivation into martial arts. Geezer sure laughed self-deprecatingly. I have to be thick-skinned and ask for some research materials. Research materials? Lu Cheng asked curiously. Geezer sure said with a faint smile. Do you think Longhu Immortal was the only cultivator in ancient times? The related heritage was discovered one after another. That's why we can be sure that this path leads to the same destination as martial arts. But we can't break free from the shackles. Because we live in the mountains all year round, the heritage is inevitably cut off. The military has collected a lot of relics and has a deeper understanding of cultivation. They have also specially selected a group of volunteers to walk this path for observation. If the things on paper are not put into practice, they are just empty talk. Speaking of this, he sighed. But the military's information won't be of much use to you. You want to walk the path of martial arts that incorporates part of the characteristics of cultivation, but it doesn't coincide with their current direction. You still have to see what my old friend can learn from the relics of Longhu Immortal. Don't be too anxious. Focus on training your body to the peak first. Yes, master. Lu Cheng answered sincerely. It would be a great gain for him if his master could watch over him the next time he squeezed Jindan. Geezer sure nodded and resumed his playful look. Well, that's it. Go do what you need to do. Lu Cheng was about to turn back to the locker room when he couldn't help but ask, Master, are you really not curious about this? Geezer sure smiled and said, Do you want to hear the truth or the lie? What's the truth? What's the lie? Lu Cheng asked with the mentality of getting to the bottom of the matter. The lie is that I've been in physical invulnerability for many years and my path has long been established. The things of cultivation can only be used as a reference or a temporary use. It can't directly promote my improvement. So even though I've cooperated with the military for many years, I still haven't paid much attention to their research on cultivation. Wuxia chuckled and said, "As for the truth, I'm old and can't take it anymore. Even if combining cultivation with other things can help me advance further, I don't dare to try it rashly. Isn't it better to have an old friend to lead the way and a lively lab rat like you to experience it? What you can get, I have plenty of channels to get." That's true. Hearing the truth, Lu Cheng was completely relieved and relaxed. Wuxia took out a small flagon and took a sip. Humming a Chinese opera, he turned around and left leisurely. Watching his master leave, Lu Cheng's mood was like the surface of a lake that calmed down after violent ups and downs. There were ripples in the calm and tranquility. He suddenly sighed and felt an inexplicable sense of loss. To him, the Jindan was the basis for rapid improvement in martial arts. It was the biggest and most unknown trump card and the secret that he was most unwilling to let others know. It made him appear unique and full of confidence. When his master knew about its existence, he understood that similar things left behind by cultivators were rare, but not only did they exist. He seemed to have lost that unique feeling and was no longer full of confidence, so it was inevitable that he felt lost. But from another perspective, the Jindan itself contained too many dangers and uncertainties. With his master, a physical invulnerability mighty one, watching over him, he would be much safer. What made him truly unique and confident was not the Jindan, but the tenacity, perseverance, temperament, confidence, and fighting talent that had been awakened by the Jindan. They were his biggest reliance on his martial arts path. After understanding this, Lu Cheng returned to normal and felt relaxed. It was as if he had removed a burden that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. He had removed the worry that he would lose his life due to the instability of the Jindan at any time. He took a step forward, still calm and confident, and walked to the door of the locker room. Wuxia left the martial arts arena and walked towards the teacher's dormitory. Suddenly, he made a sound and patted his head. "Look at my memory. I forgot to ask the brat what he got." "Forget it. If it's not a natal weapon, then it's an external cultivation elixir." When Lu Cheng entered the locker room, Zhaka had just come out of the shower. Her black hair was tied up with a black rubber band, looking fresh and attractive. Li Mao was walking back and forth excitedly, looking for someone to talk to. The sweat on his face had not disappeared. Obviously, he had not taken a shower yet. The others were busy with their own things. Seeing Lu Cheng come in, Li Mao hurriedly shouted, "Cheng, and everyone, it's my treat tonight. Let's go to the school restaurant to celebrate." He wanted to express his gratitude and happiness. Zhaka took out the ointment from the cabinet and jokingly said, "Senior brother Li Mao, are you ignoring me and senior brother Sun Jian? We are also the protagonists today. If you want a treat, all three of us should treat." Sun Jian also echoed, "That's right. Li Mao, do you want to steal the credit? I'm the last fighter standing in the arena. I'm the leading fighter. How can I let you treat yourself?" Lu Cheng and the others understood that they did not want Li Mao, who was from an ordinary family, to spend too much money, so they followed suit. Li Mao was moved and embarrassed, but finally he agreed. "Let me help you rub the bruise?" Lu Cheng walked to Zhaka and took the ointment with a smile. Zhaka pursed her lips and looked at him with a smile. She snorted and said, "Then I'll try your skills." After that, she turned around and sat on the edge of the bench. She unbuttoned her cuffs and rolled up her sleeves, revealing a part of her snow-white skin. Perhaps because of her delicate skin, the few bruises and red swollen bruises looked terrible. Lu Cheng picked up her wrist and applied the ointment on the red and swollen part of her fist. He rubbed it very carefully. "Not bad." Zhaka bit her lower lip with her white teeth and looked at the whirlpool on top of Lu Cheng's head. She smiled shyly. "Of course. I rub it for myself every day after training. My proficiency is already full." Lu Cheng answered humorously, feeling relaxed and happy. Zhaka saw Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others leave one by one. Li Mao also entered the shower room to take a shower. She called in a low voice, "Cheng." "Yes?" Lu Cheng raised his head and looked at the girl. He saw that her eyes were as gentle as water. Thank you. Yen Zheka turned her head and looked to the side, whispering. She did not thank him now but before. Lu Cheng smiled and said, "Do we still need to say thank you between us?" This was the answer that Yen Zheka pretended to be innocent before. Now that he used it, it immediately made the girl laugh and pout coquettishly. Lu Cheng looked at her and felt that he was unique again. In this world, the only boy that Yen Zheka likes is me. Chapter 159. In the spacious changing room, a young girl wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges sat with her hands on both sides of her body. Her quiet expression of shyness and happiness, and the boy who was crouching in front of her with his back bent as he carefully applied ointment on her body. Together, they formed a picture of beauty and youth. Their silent gazes from time to time was the finishing touch. Unconsciously, Lu Cheng rubbed away all the bruises and swelling. He reluctantly pointed at the girl's left foot. "I remember you fought with Feng Xiaokuan with your foot. You should have some bruises, right?" Ah! Yen Zheka seemed to wake up from a dream. She quickly withdrew her foot and lowered her head shyly. "No, I'll do it myself when I get back." She didn't wait for Lu Cheng's reply. She blinked and asked, "Do I look normal now?" Lu Cheng glanced at her and smiled. "Much better than just now." While speaking, he gently put down the girl's right trouser leg carefully. Yen Zheka looked at him with a faint smile. She picked up her phone and looked at it again. "Then let's go back. You've recovered, but I haven't." Lu Cheng didn't dare to stand up, so he just squatted and laughed. "I've always had an illusion that you shouldn't be associated with things like drying quilts, washing clothes, and cleaning. Little fairies should stay away from the mundane world." Yen Zheka burst into laughter. "Which girl lives in a vacuum? If I don't wash my clothes myself, should I wear them and throw them away? Do you want to help me wash them?" "That's fine too." Lu Cheng smiled and said seriously. Yen Zheka rolled her eyes and said, "You're a rough man. Most of the time you just rub your clothes. I don't feel safe washing them for you. I'll teach you later." Speaking of this, she suddenly paused, feeling a little shy and sweet. Am I making a promise for a long, long time in the future? Feeling a little tipsy, she suddenly thought of a sentence she once read: "Young people always make empty promises." When they were young, they didn't understand the length of time, the ruthlessness of time, the difficulties of the world, and the fickleness of human feelings. They always thought that promises and vows like a lifetime could be easily fulfilled. Yen Zheka, who was not yet 19, suddenly felt a little sentimental. Sure. Lu Cheng didn't notice the twists and turns in Yen Zheka's mind and agreed happily. He always felt that it was a wonderful thing to have Yen Zheka's company, even if it was just housework. Yen Zheka gazed deeply at him and pursed her lips. "Then you better remember what you said today." "I remember it in a notebook." Lu Cheng laughed. He always believed that a good memory was better than a bad pen. Feeling the abnormality that had not completely disappeared, he quickly started a new topic. "Ku, how about going to the Songqing Ocean Aquarium tomorrow afternoon? Then, he could go to the third place he had visited to enjoy the delicious food. The distance between the two places was less than 15 minutes. Sigh, now that we're officially dating, we don't have much time to explore new areas. Whenever we have free time, we want to stick together. You really can't be both loyal and filial." Sigh, that's a weird way to describe it. Yen Zheka blinked and said apologetically, "I'm afraid I can't. I have to go to Tian Tong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon." Ha! Lu Cheng looked at her blankly. Why didn't she mention this before? "I just heard it from my brother." Yen Zheka pursed her lips and said, "After he was injured, he moved to Tian Tong Taoist Temple to recuperate. The environment there is good and the air is fresh. The abbot is an old friend of my uncle in Songqing. It's a good place for him to recuperate. Well, an elder in my family knows that he's injured and is passing by. He plans to visit Tian Tong Taoist Temple and wants me to go there too. The ocean aquarium can only wait until next week." Actually, I don't like this kind of gathering. It's always a little depressing to chat with unfamiliar elders. While talking, the girl felt wronged. She wanted to stay with Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng was disappointed when he heard that. But after seeing Yen Zheka's grievance, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said with a smile, "Then I'll go to Tian Tong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon."
Yan Zheke didn't react for a while. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Let's go to Tiantong Taoist Temple on a date." Anyway, the scenery there was good. He heard that the food in the temple was good too. "Who wants to go on a date with you?" Yan Zheke said coquettishly. Then she asked, "But I can't accompany you in Tiantong Taoist Temple. It's so boring to let you wander around there alone." Lu Qing answered with confidence, "You can go in and chat with your elders and cousin for a while. Then you can find an excuse to come out. They can't stop you from going to the temple and climbing the mountain, right? You can go back at dinner time. I'll find a place to settle it myself." Yan Zheke was in the honeymoon period. How could she be willing to waste a rare weekend like this? Hearing that, she was quite moved. After thinking for a while, she said, "Okay. Anyway, there's a generation gap between my uncle and us young people. There's nothing to talk about." "Then it's decided." Lu Qing clapped and smiled. Why did your cousin move to Tiantong Taoist Temple to rest? Doesn't he need to go to class?" Yan Zheke sighed and smiled helplessly. He said that he can understand the curriculum content by self-study now. Until now, she realized that Lu Qing had been squatting. His posture was very awkward. She was puzzled and asked, "Why didn't you stand up? If I stood up just now, you would have called me a hooligan." Lu Qing rejoiced. He adjusted his pants and stood up slowly. "I was too engrossed in the conversation and forgot about it. It shouldn't be obvious." Yan Zheke looked at him suspiciously. "I always feel that you are hiding something from me. What were your hands doing just now?" "My pants were a bit crooked. I was adjusting it." Lu Qing lied through his teeth. He reached out his hand and said, "Go back. Otherwise, someone is always afraid that I'll become a big pervert." Yan Zheke was amused by his words. She gave Lu Qing her hand and let him pull her up. Then she said in a small voice, "Come do, yes." After parting with Lu Qing, Yan Zheke carried the bag and walked back to the dormitory with light steps. When she opened the door, she saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru looking at her quietly. They looked like they were going to interrogate her. "What are you guys doing?" Yan Zheke asked in surprise. Li Liantong sneered. You're eating and forgot to wipe your mouth." "Ah!" Yan Zheke was shocked and quickly wiped her mouth. "Didn't Cheng say it was normal? I've also checked it myself." Li Liantong suddenly laughed and said to Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru, "See? He tricked you out. Quick, call me daddy." "What are you guys betting on?" Yan Zheke was embarrassed and angry. "I bet that you and Lu Qing must be in full swing. They didn't believe me and put their dignity on the line. If they lose, they will call me daddy." Li Liantong smiled proudly. Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru were both amused and angry. They first called daddy in grievance and then looked at Yan Zheke with a disappointing look. How can you let Chang get what he wants so easily?" Yan Zheke's face was pink. She said stubbornly, "I didn't admit it. I just touched my mouth casually." Li Liantong laughed. "Even if I didn't trick you, I'm sure. Didn't we go to cheer you on? After the competition, we wanted to take a photo with you, Heroine Yen, so we went to the locker room and waited. We waited and waited. When everyone else had left, you and Lu Qing still hadn't come out. A man and a woman in a room together. And you are an official couple. As long as he is still a man, he will definitely have bad thoughts. If you don't cooperate, he will definitely come out soon. How is it possible that the locker room door didn't open again after 10 to 20 minutes? Yan Zheke was speechless. Her face was burning with embarrassment. She couldn't wait to crawl into bed and hide under the blanket and never talk to Dirty Tong again. "See, you admitted it." Li Liantong spread her hands proudly. Zhong Yanru saw that Yan Zheke was so embarrassed that her heart softened. She quickly changed the topic. "It's natural for me to kiss my boyfriend. What's there to say?" Before she could finish her words, Yan Zheke slid close to her and covered her mouth with her hand. Her delicate face was as red as a big piece of red cloth. Compared to Dirty Tong, Ruru's name was more lethal. The girls laughed and joked for a while. Shi Xiangyang panted and said, Okay. Didn't you want to take a photo with Heroine Yen? Seize the opportunity when she hasn't changed her clothes. I'll be the first." Li Liantong jumped to Yan Zhika's side, held her hand, and posed. At the same time she said with emotion, "Ku, you look so beautiful when you wear the martial arts suit. You make my heart beat so fast. I wonder if I should take you back from Lu Cheng." Yan Zhika pursed her lips and smiled. "First you have to beat him." "Ah," Li Liantong complained. "Then I can only settle for the second best. Find a boyfriend who is good at martial arts. That will make me feel very safe." "Not really. Many people who practice martial arts have bad personalities and bad tempers. They will make you feel even more insecure. Don't find a boyfriend for the sake of finding one." Yan Zhika thought for a while and said. Li Liantong was stunned. "I'm just a love-struck fool. Ku, you don't have to be so serious. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Shi Xiangyang raised her phone and shouted. Click. The beautiful scene froze on the screen. While they were taking photos, Lu Cheng was strolling on the street toward his own dormitory. He was recalling the beautiful moment just now and sighing from the bottom of his heart. He thought that since his master knew about his jindan, he might as well take the opportunity to confess to Yan Zhika. However, there were too many people in the locker room at the beginning. Besides, he was intoxicated by the kiss and completely forgot about it. He couldn't find a chance to tell her. When they parted, he wanted to pluck up his courage but felt that it was not the right time. I'd better tell Ku after I've digested the jindan, Lu Cheng thought. He vaguely understood that on one hand, this decision was to keep it a secret. On the other hand, he liked Yan Zhika so much that he was afraid that this was a dream that he would wake up from. He felt a little guilty and not confident enough. He always felt that he was not good enough for this girl. Therefore, he had to work hard to improve himself so that one day he could confidently and frankly tell her everything. Back in the dormitory, he sat in the living room, chatting with Yan Zhika while looking at the pictures and corresponding introductions that he had downloaded earlier. Hey, Cheng, you're taking marine biology as an elective? Kai Zhongming passed by behind him and glanced at the content on his phone. Lu Cheng smiled and said, No, I'm doing homework for next week's date. Humph. Kai Zhongming raised his middle finger to show his disdain. The next morning, Lu Cheng was delighted to find that because of the awakening of the power of frost, his physical quality had improved in a short time. The injury on his right arm was healed one day earlier and he could do restorative training now. In other words, he could put into practice the Thunder Roar Zen technique that he had been practicing for the past few days. Chapter 160. The grass by the lake grew long, the leaves were green, and the smell of spring permeated the thin mist of the morning. Lu Cheng breathed in the refreshing air and jogged to the place where he usually trained while carrying the items he would bring to the martial arts club later to complete the preliminary warm-up. The recovery of his right arm made him feel light and refreshed. He couldn't wait to perform the skills of Thunder Roar Zen that he had comprehended. When he arrived at the destination, Geezer Shi was already waiting there. Seeing his running posture, he was slightly surprised and asked, You're all healed? Yes. Maybe it's because of the awakening of the power of frost, which stimulated my body and made it stronger. Lu Cheng explained with a smile. Geezer Shi clicked his tongue and said, You're really good at not playing by the rules. I was going to see your power of frost today and figure out its characteristics so that I can perfect what I'm going to teach you after your arm recovers. I didn't expect you to be fine today. Forget it. You still have Thunder Roar Zen to practice. You're not in a hurry. Show me your power of frost first. Yes, master. Lu Cheng put the bag next to the tree and then got into a good posture to operate the cold current in his body. Bam! He shook his left arm and slapped out with his palm, imprinting it on the tree. During this process, Geezer Shi's eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of ice blue and almost white, as if they had turned into a crystal-clear ice soul. They quietly reflected everything around them. Although they couldn't see through clothes or flesh, they clearly outlined the tracks of things that affected each other and showed the details contained in them. Seeing the white frost palm print disappear in a flash after Lu Cheng withdrew his hand, Geezer Shi nodded slightly and said, Okay, I have a general understanding of it. I'll teach you tomorrow after thinking about it. You can start other exercises. Lu Cheng said, Okay, but he didn't rush to practice Thunder Roar Zen. Instead, he stood still step by step, practiced the set, quenched his body, and practiced 24 blizzard strikes as usual. His right arm had just recovered, so it was still in a fragile stage. If he didn't move it,
warm up, and adapt to the feeling of tempering, he would only hurt it again if he directly used Thunder Roar Zen. And if he hurt the same part of his arm repeatedly, it would easily become a habitual injury, which would be difficult to completely heal. Therefore, Geezer Sher's initial assessment of his injury was that it would take about 2 weeks for him to return to normal. 5 days of recuperation for his injury to heal, followed by more than a week of restorative training. Only then would he be able to compete in the challenge tournament again without any hidden dangers. Pa! Pa! The crisp sound of explosions in the air continued. Lu Cheng performed the 24 blizzard strikes over and over again. Finally, he felt that his right arm belonged to him again. Every muscle adjustment and every detail of exerting force were all under his control. After finishing the rest of the training, Lu Cheng took a short rest. He closed his eyes and stood still. First, he recalled the skills of Thunder Roar Zen, and then visualized the scene of thunderclouds and thunderbolts. In the rumbling sound, he controlled his body. According to the passive experience last time, he tightened the muscles of his hands, forearms, upper arms, shoulders, and back one by one, as if he was compressing them. Then he exerted force under his feet and let the violent rebound pass through his ankle joint, knee joint, and corresponding muscles to his waist and hip. Then he pushed his left arm purely through the rotation of his spine to punch out. When he was close to the target in the void, Lu Cheng's tightened muscles all opened up. Like the explosion of a cannonball, the air was torn apart, and a low sound was heard. Bang! After the punch, Lu Cheng's body trembled, but he didn't feel any obvious vibration. His attempt at Thunder Roar Zen failed. Not tight enough, not compressed enough, and the rhythm is wrong. Lu Cheng didn't feel annoyed. Instead, he felt that it was natural. Even if he found the trick and the threshold, it was not easy to master a martial art. Trial and error were inevitable. Bang! 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 He continuously punched with his left and right hands. He failed again and again, and tried again and again. With his physical strength, sweat gradually appeared on his forehead and back. If it weren't for the Jindan, he would have to wait until the next day to practice again. But these failures were not completely useless. They allowed him to eliminate his mistakes little by little, and he got new feedback to confirm his adjusted ideas. He felt that he had stepped on the threshold. After 4 or 5 days of training, Lu Cheng tightened his muscles, put his feet inward, and shook out his right arm with the spring of his tailbone and the strength of his back. He clenched his fist and punched down. Boom! In his mind, lightning clouds were rolling and thunder was roaring. Together with the opening of the tightened muscles of his hands, forearms, upper arms, and shoulders, etc. Bang! The air in front of Lu Cheng's fist seemed to be hit by a bomb, and there were invisible ripples spreading out in circles. Phew! Okay. Lu Cheng exhaled a long breath and felt some vibration in the opposite direction. Geezer Sher had been watching from the side, and occasionally gave Lu Cheng some pointers, which made Lu Cheng feel enlightened. At this moment, he said with a grumpy smile, "Only you can practice in such an abnormal way. But don't go too far. Your right arm is still weak. Well, you've got the beginner of Thunder Roar Zen. Practice a little more and you'll be able to fight." After that, he walked away slowly with his hands behind his back. When he reached the long bridge, he cursed, "This bastard is not human. That thing will be exhausted by him sooner or later." Lu Cheng didn't notice his master's sarcasm behind his back. He devoted himself to practicing Thunder Roar Zen, so that he could turn that feeling into instinct as soon as possible. Bang! 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 He punched with his left hand and hammered with his right hand, creating continuous vibrations, like a horrible human-shaped beast. After a long time, he finally stopped. He pinched his right arm and decided to stop. He took out a towel from the bag and wiped his sweat. Then he started the last training, which was to improve his endurance. After hiding the bag, he started to run along the lakeside, pushing himself to the limit. While running, he suddenly saw a familiar figure. Li Mao was standing by the lakeside, practicing his stance with his eyes closed. "Senior brother Li?" Lu Cheng approached curiously and shouted. Li Mao opened his eyes and laughed heartily. "Chang, we meet again. It's because you rarely practice in the morning." Lu Cheng joked. Li Mao smiled and said, "I don't have your abnormal stamina. 4 hours of special training has taken a toll on my body. If I practice in the morning again, I'll get tired and hurt sooner or later. But after yesterday's battle, I feel that I've vented a lot of things in my heart. It's rare for me to experience peace and harmony. So I want to try to practice still stance and see if I can catch the inspiration and succeed in concealment of spirit and chi.
Good. Lu Cheng praised and encouraged him. There's hope.
Li Mao nodded and smiled. Actually, I met senior martial brother Sun Jian just now. He also started to practice in the morning.
Lu Cheng asked in surprise.
Sun Jian doesn't seem like such a person. He's really just playing with martial arts. No, senior brother Sun Jian is studying and memorizing books. He said he wants to go back to Huahai with senior sister Lin after graduation and work there.
Li Mao explained.
So that's why. Lu Cheng suddenly understood and then waved his fist. Then let's do our best together.
Do your best.
Li Mao also waved his fist. When he turned around and continued to run, Lu Cheng suddenly recalled the scene of the celebration dinner last night. Li Mao held a beer glass and looked around with slightly red eyes. I'm not good at saying emotional words. During this time, I owe you all a thank you. Well, now I'll use the lyrics of an old song to express my thoughts. A sentence, a lifetime of love, a glass of wine. After singing this sentence, he finished the beer in his hand in one gulp, 3 glasses in a row. Tian Tong Taoist Temple was located at Mount Shaohing in the western suburbs of Songqing. The environment was quiet and secluded, and martial arts were passed down through generations. It was spring and many tourists came for a walk on the weekends, which added a lot of popularity to the ordinary Taoist temple. However, it didn't detract from the quiet and cold atmosphere of the place. I'm going to the side yard. You can walk around by yourself. Yan Zheka looked around cutely and reminded Lu Cheng, let's talk on QQ. Lu Cheng shook the phone in his hand and watched the girl enter the side yard. Then he put his hands in his pockets and began to stroll around leisurely, breathing in the fresh air that cleared the mind and the smell of incense. After slowly admiring the Taoist statues in the front and side halls, he stepped into the main hall and saw the statues of the 3 pristine ones standing in front of him. Heavenly Lord Yuanshi stood in the center with a crown on his head, looking majestic and solemn. Heavenly Lord Dao De stood on the left with white hair and a natural look. Heavenly Lord Lingbao stood on the right with an elegant crown and a fierce aura. They looked down from high above. Together with the slightly spacious main hall, they set off a deep and solemn feeling that made the visitors couldn't help but bow. Very imposing. Lu Cheng sighed and decided that since he was here, he might as well burn some incense. He turned around, took out his wallet, and bought 3 incense sticks. Then he walked to the stove and bowed to Heavenly Lord Yuanshi, silently reciting the words, family is safe, love is long, and martial arts is successful. After doing all this, he put the 3 incense sticks into the stove and bowed again. After leaving the main hall, he walked to the backyard with the mentality of a tourist. Just as he turned the corner, he saw a group of people gathered there and heard the continuous sound of punches and kicks. A fight. Lu Cheng's curiosity was piqued. He walked through the crowd like a fish and came to the front. He saw 2 figures fighting fiercely in the small square paved with bluestone. A middle-aged Taoist was the referee. Just as he stood still, he saw a young man in a black martial arts suit lower his waist and lower his hips, wriggling the muscles on his back, and using his right arm as a spear, he stabbed forward. This seemingly ordinary attack made Lu Cheng feel like his opponent was in an ancient battlefield, holding a spear and sprinting on a horse. Nice! He couldn't help but shout. His opponent's back muscles seemed to be in a perfect state. He could be considered a rare expert among professional 9th pin fighters. Bam! After one attack, the young Taoist opposite the man in a black martial arts suit broke his stance. I lost. The young Taoist didn't struggle and shook his head with a bitter smile. The man in a black martial arts suit didn't seem to be satisfied. He looked around and said, who else wants to fight with me? Now that the Taoist is the referee, let's do it. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He was eager to have a try. His Thunder Roar Zen had finally started. He really wanted to try out actual combat. As for his weak right arm, he could use it to defend. At this time, the man in a black martial arts suit with thick eyebrows and big eyes shouted again, who else wants to fight? Lu Cheng exhaled and walked out of the crowd. He took off his clothes and said with a smile,
Me.
Chapter 161. Seeing Lu Cheng coming out, the man in black martial arts suit, who was worried about not having an opponent, did not hide his joy. He pointed in front of him and said politely, "Please." It was the warm spring season. After taking off his thin coat, Lu Cheng was left with only a woolen shirt inside. It was not as loose as his training suit and was somewhat restrained. However, he did not care too much about it. After all, it was just a friendly match, not a challenge tournament where the goal was to win. This was more like the daily sparring in the special training. The only difference was that there was a referee, so he could practice his new martial arts without worry. After reading so much news, he knew a lot of tricks. He carefully took out his phone and wallet from his coat and stuffed them into the pockets of his casual pants. Then he handed the clothes to the little Taoist beside him. "Don't worry. They are all Taoists of Tian Tong Taoist Temple. They won't take your phone and wallet. You can run away, but the temple won't." The man in black martial arts suit frowned. "You will affect your leg movements." "It's okay. It's just a competition." Lu Cheng moved his body and said with a smile, "If it was a challenge tournament, I wouldn't dare to fight. After all, my right arm is temporarily weak and can only be used as a support. Who would use one arm to fight a strong fighter of professional ninth pin? Besides, the surrounding audience was sparse. It seemed that they didn't know him or his opponent. If he won, there would be no sense of achievement. If he lost, it would be even less important. The man in black martial arts suit stopped persuading him. He observed Lu Cheng's movements and asked, "Friend, what's your rank? Amateur or professional?" Only by knowing the opponent's level could he decide how much strength he could exert. A competition like this was meaningless after 2 or 3 moves. Lu Cheng didn't want to play dumb. He said frankly, "Professional ninth pin." Probably. The man in black martial arts suit heard this and became excited. "Good. I didn't expect him to be a master. Now I can fight to my heart's content." Well, judging from his appearance, his chi and blood are not strong enough to become fierce. He should have just entered professional ninth pin. After moving his body, Lu Cheng stood in front of the man in black martial arts suit. They were about 4 meters apart. The middle-aged Taoist laughed. He didn't wave his hand like an official referee. He just shouted casually, "Begin." Lu Cheng was about to shift his center of gravity and flash to the side of the man in black martial arts suit, so that he could perform the Thunder Roar Zen in the best way. However, he suddenly saw his opponent bend his legs and shake his body. He leaped forward as if he was riding a 1,000-mile horse. Taking advantage of the horse's momentum, he fiercely shook his right arm and stabbed at Lu Cheng. His leap was as quick as a clap of thunder, so fast that it was like a galloping horse. His punch carried the might and terror of a high-speed collision. Even with Lu Cheng's current fighting mentality, he couldn't help but feel that his opponent was invincible and unstoppable. "Good," he muttered to himself. He calmly gave up on the idea of dodging in a hurry. Suddenly, he pushed his feet inward and lowered his waist into a sitting position. Pa! Tiny cracks appeared on the bluestone ground. The violent force was channeled to Lu Cheng's left arm through his legs and back, allowing him to throw out a vigorous blast punch. At the same time, he skillfully tightened the muscles in his hands, forearms, upper arms and shoulders. Thunder Roar Zen, attack against attack, breaking hard with hard. When the two fists just collided, the thundercloud in Lu Cheng's mind suddenly struck down a bolt of lightning, bursting out with a deafening thunder. Boom! Lu Cheng's tight muscles all opened up, giving off an explosive force in an instant. The first strike. Bang! His and the man in black martial arts suit's fists seemed to be frozen in the air for a moment. There seemed to be circles of ripples spreading out around them. Crack! The man in black martial arts suit took a step back and crushed a bluestone. He only felt that his head was buzzing and his chi and blood were tumbling. His body felt as if it was hit by an iron hammer. There was no part of his body that didn't feel uncomfortable. Tremor force? He has mastered tremor force? Fortunately, I used all my strength in the first strike and offset a lot of it. Otherwise, the effect wouldn't be so ordinary. While the man in black martial arts suit was in shock, Lu Cheng also took a step back. He was forced to take a step back by his opponent's tremendous force like a horse charging at him. The bluestone ground where he landed had a spider web of cracks. His strength is indeed above mine.
The thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind.
Lu Cheng took a deep breath and pounced on him fiercely again with the help of the rebound force. Taking advantage of his opponent's slight delay due to the shock, he swung his left arm again and tightened his muscles. The second strike of Thunder Roar Zen, unforgiving. Seeing this, the man in black martial arts suit endured the discomfort and took a deep breath. He stamped his feet and his temples suddenly bulged. It seemed that there was a flame in his body that broke out automatically and disappeared in the opposite direction.
With this push, he threw out his right fist with a snap. Bang! The two fists collided.
Lu Cheng's thunder roar sounded again, like an interrogation. The man in black martial arts suit shook his body, churned his qi and blood, and shook his muscles, fascias and joints.
Again! Lu Cheng shouted secretly.
He moved his right arm and beat the drum as if he was practicing in the morning. Another strike of Thunder Roar Zen. The man in black martial arts suit knew that this kind of vibration force required constant control of the muscles in his body, which consumed a lot of physical strength. It was impossible to beat it continuously. Therefore, he didn't panic. He clenched his teeth and visualized a giant frog swallowing and spitting at the moon. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. His internal organs seemed to be wriggling and making a loud sound to offset the vibration of his body. He raised his left arm in time to block Lu Cheng's right fist. Boom! His mind was buzzing as if there was thunder exploding. His qi and blood were churning so much that he wanted to vomit. However, he firmly held on to one idea in his heart and persevered. His opponent should have reached his limit, right? Good. Lu Cheng praised secretly and swung out his left arm again. The fourth strike of Thunder Roar Zen. The man in black martial arts suit showed a rare look of astonishment. He could only summon his remaining strength to resist the vibration with the wriggling of his internal organs, muscles and fascias. He forced himself to raise his right arm. Bang! The right arm of the man in black martial arts suit was forcibly opened. His internal organs were all shaken and he lost control of his qi and blood. His muscles and joints were trembling but he could barely exert strength. Still not falling? Lu Cheng's expression was solemn. He tightened his right arm and threw another seabed burst punch at his opponent's lower abdomen. The fifth strike of Thunder Roar Zen. Let's see how many times you can block. Bang! The man in black martial arts suit lowered his waist and stretched out his arms to block the blow. However, the sudden explosion made him feel like he was hit by a bomb. His whole body was shaken up and he tasted something sweet in his throat. He was almost injured because of the churning of his qi and blood. He felt as if his body was a large bell that had been struck 5 times with a mallet. His muscles, fascia, joints, blood, bone marrow, and internal organs were all shaking with a clanging sound. His footsteps became unsteady as he staggered backwards, almost falling down. Lu Cheng stopped. He felt that the 5 consecutive strikes of Thunder Roar Zen were so satisfying that they could be described as unreasonable. Not convinced? Then let's do it again. Of course, it was only him. If it were another professional martial artist, even if his qi and blood were at the peak, he could only hit 3 or 4 times at most. He felt the expansion, contraction and rotation of the Jin Dan in his body. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you." The man in black martial arts suit steadied himself and wanted to say something. However, he couldn't open his mouth because of the churning of his qi and blood. Lu Cheng smiled and didn't say anything. He took back his coat and walked out of the crowd. He continued to wander around Tiantong Taoist Temple. After 10 minutes, he received a message from Yen Zheka. The girl said with an evil smile, "I'm coming out. Come and pick me up." Okay. Lu Cheng was in a good mood. He put his phone back in his pocket and turned back to the entrance of the side yard. When he arrived at the gate of the front hall, he happened to see Yen Zheka walking out of the side yard with a fashionable young man beside her.
Her relative? Cool, let's go hiking, okay? The scenery here is pretty good.
Xie Tianke invited her ingratiatingly. Yen Zheka looked around and didn't answer. Suddenly, her eyes lit up when she saw Lu Cheng at the gate of the front hall. She smiled and said, "My boyfriend is here. You can find someone else to climb the mountain." She didn't wait for a response. She waved goodbye and trotted to Lu Cheng with light steps. Lu Cheng walked up and held the girl's delicate hand. He asked in a low voice, Who is that?
Yen Zheke didn't turn around.
She said pitifully. A child of a family friend of mine. When I was young, I called him brother. This time his family came with my uncle. It's super embarrassing.
A blind date?
Lu Cheng asked with mixed feelings.
Not really. We just happened to meet.
Hey, he confessed to me 2 years ago. So it's a little awkward to see him. Hey, why can't we be good friends?
Yen Zheke sighed.
Then she rolled her eyes and looked at Lu Cheng mischievously. Cheng, are you jealous?
No.
Lu Cheng blushed and hurriedly denied. Yen Zheke chuckled and seemed to be very happy. She said with shallow dimples. I'm still young. My parents don't want me to date in college. There won't be any blind dates in the next few years. When we get there, I'll take you back directly. She stopped abruptly and looked to the side with a slight blush. Boyfriend. Xie Tianke stared blankly at the back of Yen Zheke and Lu Cheng walking hand in hand to the front hall. He felt a sense of loss, bitterness, and unwillingness. The childhood sweetheart that she had watched grow up was snatched away just like that?
Ku, this little girl, has a boyfriend.
At this moment, a low voice woke him up. He turned his head to look and found that his father was standing behind him at some point in time. He muttered blankly, Dad. Xie Qingzhen was slender and elegant. He chuckled and said, I came out to burn incense and happened to see you.
Tianke, why are you so depressed?
Is this all that a man can do?
So what if Ku has a boyfriend?
You have to show her your strengths and work hard to make yourself more outstanding. Sooner or later, she will compare you to her. How many boyfriends in college can last until the end?
Xie Tianke nodded thoughtfully.
When he was about to express his determination, he suddenly saw Xie Tianshu in a black martial arts suit coming back. His brother was a typical martial arts fanatic. After arriving at Tian Tong Taoist Temple, he did not do anything else but went straight to the Taoist priest. However, he could not catch up with his brother's martial arts level. What's wrong? Xie Tianshu saw his brother's expression and asked casually. Xie Tianke sighed and pointed to the front hall door. He said in a low voice, Ku has a boyfriend.
Boyfriend?
Xie Tianshu looked over and was stunned. He blurted out, Him?
I just had a match with him.
Xie Qingzhen and Xie Tianke were stunned. They looked at Xie Tianshu blankly, waiting for him to continue. Xie Tianshu took a deep breath and said in a low voice, I lost.
Chapter 162.
Lost. After a short silence, Xie Tianke asked subconsciously, Brother, how much strength did you use? He knew that when his elder brother was sparring with others, he would use different forces according to the opponent's strength. There were many examples of him failing miserably because of this. Controlling one's own strength and suppressing one's own level could be more troublesome than dealing with the enemy. Full strength.
Xie Tianshu showed a bitter smile. He is of professional ninth pin. How could I dare to be careless? His brother who used his full strength lost to Ku's boyfriend?
And he still looked so young.
Xie Tianke suddenly felt desperate.
It seemed that he could only watch Ku and her boyfriend go further and further away.
How did you lose?
Xie Qingzhen looked at his eldest son and asked. He was more concerned about this question.
Xie Tianshu sighed.
I was hit by 5 tremor punches in a row. I didn't even have a chance to fight back. 5 tremor punches. Xie Tianke was shocked and interrupted in astonishment. He wasn't an ordinary martial artist with poor knowledge, and he often experienced the power of the meteor force. Naturally, he knew that an expert at the peak of the body refinement realm could only throw out 4 tremor punches at most, and there was no way they could truly suppress his own brother.
5 tremor punches in a row?
What kind of inhuman was this? Yes, I feel that he still has some strength left. It won't be a problem to hit him 2 or 3 more times. Speaking of this, Xie Tianshu couldn't help but feel depressed. He almost lost the confidence to face Lu Cheng again. Xie Qingzhen, who had been listening quietly at the side, asked thoughtfully.
Meteor force?
No, meteor force is faster than his tremor punch. It has both momentum and tremor force. But his tremor punch is more ingenious. I feel that there is still a lot of room for improvement.
Xie Tianshu analyzed seriously. Xie Qingzhen said, what do you think the result will be between him and Lin Ke? Xie Tianshu thought carefully and said, his physical fitness hasn't reached the peak of the body-refining realm yet. If he uses the tremor punch and the meteor force to fight, he won't be able to withstand the shock of 3 superimposed moves. Not to mention that Lin Ke is close to the Dan stage. Xie Qingzhen didn't say more. He turned to Xie Tianke and said with a smile, Tianke, if you want to beat him, you have to put in some hard work. However, even if I work hard, I won't be able to catch up to him. Xie Tianke opened his mouth, but he couldn't make up his mind. There was nothing more depressing and despairing than having one's love rival far surpass oneself. Xie Qingzhen put his hands behind his back and said, Tianshu, accompany me to the 3 Pristines Hall to burn some incense. Xie Tianshu nodded and followed beside his father. They walked forward slowly until they were far away from Xie Tianke. He turned back to look at his brother who was in a daze and asked worriedly, Dad, are we pushing Tianke too hard? Ruthless? Xie Qingzhen laughed. If even this kind of thing can't make him work harder, it can only mean that he's just a lustful guy. Then I don't have to worry that he won't be able to recover from the setback. If he really takes this opportunity to push himself to the limit and catch up with other girls, it's a good thing for him. Even if Yen Zheka is gone, there are still other good girls. Time is like a knife. Sooner or later, his feelings will fade away. Xie Tianshu glanced at his father and vaguely heard a sigh in his voice. Did his father also encounter a similar situation in the past? Did he also have a girl he couldn't get? He was not interested in love and romance, so he forgot about it in the blink of an eye. Because of the previous failure, he was more motivated to work harder. Being defeated is not terrible. What is terrible is losing the confidence to catch up. Fortunately, I still have this confidence. Sooner or later, I will face him again. When Yen Zheka looked to the side with a slight blush, her words just now echoed in Lu Cheng's ears. Does she mean that she will take me back to meet her parents directly after I graduate? Meet her parents. Lu Cheng was excited and scared at the same time. He was afraid that Yen Zheka's family would not like him. According to the girl's words, he was sure that she was born in a martial arts family. Her family must be very knowledgeable. A little professional 9th pin fighter would not be accepted by them. Even those who had just entered the Dan stage with no potential would not be accepted by them. Phew! Lu Cheng suddenly felt a sense of crisis and urgency. He wanted to temper his body to the peak as soon as possible. He wanted to step into the Dan stage and have at least the strength of professional 7th pin by the time he graduated. Only in this way could he successfully win the girl's heart. After his fortuitous encounter with the Jindan, his martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. It wasn't that he hadn't dreamed of rising 1 pin in a year, becoming a mighty one with physical invulnerability, or obtaining the 5 major titles. However, they were just dreams. After all, they were still far from his current level. But at this moment, he had a clear goal for the first time and a clearer desire. I want to improve my body to the peak of the body refining stage in half a year. I want to take advantage of opportunities such as preliminaries and university martial arts competitions to fight strong opponents and gain experience. I want to step into the Dan stage in 1 or 2 years. I want to be famous in the university martial arts circle and lay the best foundation for entering the professional martial arts competition in the future. I want to have at least the strength of professional 7th pin by the time I graduate. With a goal in mind, Lu Cheng suddenly felt the road ahead was much clearer and more motivated. 4 years in college was not a short time, but it was also not a long time. He had to make good use of it. Cheng, what are you thinking about? Yen Zheka stretched out her white and slender fingers and playfully waved them in front of his eyes. With a goal in mind, Lu Cheng couldn't help but say, I'm thinking if I go with you to see your parents-in-law. Who are your parents-in-law? Yen Zheka subconsciously shook off Lu Cheng's hand and blurted out shyly and angrily. Lu Cheng smiled and didn't explain. When the time comes, I want to grow up to be a reliable man whom they like and are willing to entrust their daughters to me. So, I just set a goal. I want to be of professional 7th pin by the time I graduate. Yen Zheka, who was a little shy and angry, suddenly froze. Her eyes seemed to be shining. She stretched out her soft hand and held Lu Cheng's hand again. She looked down and said, Don't push yourself too hard. Too much pressure will only hinder your progress. Take it slow and steady step by step. Then you'll be faster. The girl pursed her lips and blushed. She continued, I'll also work hard. After graduation, I'll strive to be financially independent as soon as possible. Only in this way can I maintain my integrity and not be dominated by their opinions. I can only use them as a reference. Yan Zheka's words made Lu Cheng feel that she was more mature than he was. And her willingness to work hard for their future surprised him even more. Let's work hard together. Lu Cheng held the girl's hand tightly. At this time, they had arrived at the Three Pristines Hall. Yan Zheka smiled and said, Then I'll go burn some incense. Looking at the girl's graceful figure shuttling through the hall and worshipping in front of the heavenly primogenitor, Lu Cheng felt warm in his heart and smiled gently. By the way, will that boy tell your family about us? When Yan Zheka came back to him, Lu Cheng suddenly felt worried. I'm still very weak and haven't grown up yet. Yan Zheka looked up and said, He's not a person who likes to gossip. He still has some integrity. I'll ask my brother to remind him. I won't do it myself, in case he thinks I'm guilty. The more indifferent I appear, the less likely he will say. It seems that he's a good person. Lu Cheng asked deliberately. How could he not know about this love rival who often met his girlfriend? He's not that bad. He's just a little lazy. In this aspect, his brother is much better than him. He's a real martial arts fanatic and is especially devoted to martial arts. Everywhere he goes, he will definitely find someone to practice with. He's also very strong. Maybe just a little bit weaker than my brother. When I was young, I especially admired them both. Yan Zheka answered casually. Lu Cheng was a little jealous. What about now? Now. Yan Zheka suddenly felt something was wrong. Her eyebrows curved and she said with a smile, Cheng, I just found out today that you're very jealous. Cough. Lu Cheng blushed again. He imitated Yan Zheka and looked to the side. Maybe it's because I care too much. I won't like someone just because he's good at martial arts and has potential. Yan Zheka hummed. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He asked in a low voice, Then why do you like me? Yan Zheka pulled a long face and said, Because you're stupid. After saying that, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her voice was thin and clear. Lu Cheng also laughed for a while. His little jealousy disappeared. Only now did he wake up and said thoughtfully, That guy likes to practice with others? Then I should have just had a fight with him. What? Yan Zheka didn't understand at first. She blinked and asked, Didn't I just learn Thunder Roar Zen? I was just a little excited, so I had a fight with him. Lu Cheng explained. He had already told his girlfriend that his arm was healed and he had learned Thunder Roar Zen. He also took the opportunity to tell her that Coach Shi was testing him. Once he passed, he would be an official disciple. Your hand. Yan Zheka looked at Lu Cheng from head to toe. She was worried. Lu Cheng hurriedly said, Don't worry. I was careful. I used my left hand to beat him until he could only parry. Then I used my right hand. Hearing his words, Yan Zheka immediately understood that her boyfriend had won. She was very surprised and proud. How many times did you hit him with Thunder Roar Zen? 5. Lu Cheng smiled and made a hand gesture. When Lu Cheng went back to the dormitory and sat in front of the computer, he seemed to still smell the girl's sweet fragrance at the tip of his nose. He hummed a light song and opened the mailbox to check the information sent by Geezer Shi. The information of his opponent in next week's preliminaries. Lu Cheng couldn't help but say to himself, Kind of interesting. This time his opponent was called Mingwei Martial Arts School, also known as One-Man Team. Their leading fighter was called Pang Chengguang. He was 24 years old and stepped into professional 9th pin 3 years ago. It was the age when one was full of vigor and vitality and had the best physical quality. It could be said that he had no shortcomings in any aspect. According to the information, if he was ranked in the top 10 of Songqing professional 9th pin, he would definitely be one of them. In addition to him, Mingwei Martial Arts School only had one amateur first pin and several amateur second pin fighters. It was a real small martial arts school. They won 2 out of 3 matches and lost 1 match because of Pang Chengguang. When they were fighting against Azure Dragon Squad, Pang Chengguang defeated 2 professional 9th pin fighters in a row.
If the rest of them had been a little bit stronger, they would have won the match. This was the origin of the name, one-man team. Lin Ke will just resume training next week. I'm the only one who can fight, Lu Qing thought. He remembered that when he was facing Mingwei Martial Arts School, he was the only professional 9th pin fighter in Songqing University Martial Arts Club. From another point of view, it was barely a one-man team. They were both one-man team. Who was stronger? As a martial artist, how could he not have the heart to compare? Lu Qing suddenly looked forward to this match. Chapter 163. While Lu Cheng was watching Peng Chengguang's match video, Yan Zheka sent him a message. Cheng, are you looking at the information? Yeah. Lu Cheng replied with a snickering emoji. Me too. Yan Zheka replied with a snickering emoji. There was no need for superfluous words. In this short conversation, Lu Cheng felt a kind of tacit understanding and a faint warmth that made him reminisce about it. His QQ chat window and the match video window were on one side of the screen, as if they had been adjusted long ago. At this moment, his fingers were moving quickly and he sent a sitting and listening emoji. Coach Yan, what do you think of Peng Chengguang? Yan Zheka used her favorite emoji of crossing her hands and supporting her chin and said, Peng Chengguang is at the peak of the body refining stage. His body hasn't deteriorated, and his qi and blood haven't declined. He has no shortcomings in strength, speed, skills, and experience. He is calm enough, mature enough, and brave enough to seize the opportunity and take risks. Moreover, his punches and kicks are beginning to show some signs of withdrawing. He may only have one problem, which is that the martial arts he inherited are too common. Yeah, although Joyong Punch and Joyong Godly Punch only differ by one word, their essence is completely different. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. Mingwei Martial Arts School was indeed too small and too common. This could be seen from the fact that there were many martial arts schools with this name. Lu Cheng remembered that there was one in Xiaofan. Peng Chengguang was an orphan adopted by the old master of Mingwei Martial Arts School. They called each other master and disciple. After the old master was seriously injured in a challenge tournament and died at an early age, Peng Chengguang carried the heavy burden of the martial arts school on his tender shoulders as a 16-year-old boy. Step by step, he reached where he was today. Relying only on Joyong Punch and the beginner's still stance he bought, he became a powerful body refining stage master in Songqing. In these years, many martial arts schools and martial arts families valued him. Some wanted to take him as a disciple, and some wanted to invite him to join them. However, he rejected all of them. Many people thought that he was the next Liang Yifan. He was waiting for the right time to seize an opportunity and become a dragon. Lu Cheng laughed at the imitation of Joyong Punch, but he wouldn't underestimate Peng Chengguang. While watching Peng Chengguang's match video, he discussed various details with Yan Zheka. When he was about to fall asleep, he finally confirmed one thing. Apart from Wei Shengtian, a dance stage master, Peng Chengguang was probably the strongest opponent he had ever encountered. And this time, there was no Lin Ke to share the burden. The next morning before dawn, Lu Cheng had already arrived at his usual spot beside Weishui Lake. Geezer Shi appeared 5 minutes later than him. As usual, he was humming an unpleasant and off-key Chinese opera. Have you seen the information? He chuckled. Yes, I have. Lu Cheng answered honestly. Do you have the confidence to defeat Peng Chengguang? Geezer Shi asked leisurely. Although Lu Cheng was looking forward to this match and had the desire to fight, he was not blindly arrogant. He thought for a while and said, if Peng Chengguang can continuously resist Thunder Roar Zen, then I have the confidence to defeat him. Obviously, Peng Chengguang was not that stupid. With his experience and physical quality, he might not be obviously stiff after being hit by Thunder Roar Zen. Besides, he had encountered similar martial arts in the past, so he might be able to forcibly stop the vibration once or twice. Lu Cheng's physical quality was still inferior to his brother-in-law's. In this kind of martial arts that relied on tight muscles to burst out instantly instead of the rebound of legs and feet to push the whole body forward, the gap was quite obvious. Hey, you didn't say anything, Geezer Shi said grumpily.
Then he took out 2 neatly folded papers and handed them to Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng took them and unfolded them. He found that they were actually 2 visualization diagrams. This was a necessary thing to practice advanced martial arts. The entry-level visualization of the congealing water and lightning fire stance, as well as the brutal blizzard and mega avalanche, were relatively easy. Just by relying on his usual knowledge and Geyser Shi's explanations, he was able to quickly outline and form a prototype. However, it was absolutely impossible to master the more advanced visualization methods. One had to have a visualization diagram or understand the corresponding nature. Other than that, there was no other way. Of the 2 diagrams in Lu Cheng's hands, one was a plain covered with ice and snow, drawn in a freehand style. But when he saw it, he felt that it was bone-chilling and boundless. The other one was a scene of a frozen river, drawn with fine brushstrokes. Even the lines of the waves condensing into ice were presented one by one, which made people feel the surging force and the more terrifying freezing intent contained in it. For a moment, Lu Cheng felt that his hands were cold, as if he had directly touched 1,000-year-old ice. He almost shook his arms and threw the visualization diagram away. Cough. As Geyser Shi coughed, the illusion disappeared and the bone-chilling cold disappeared. First, look at the freezing sky and earth diagram and grasp the essence and charm. Remember which muscles, fascia, and internal organs it affects in the still stance visualization, and remember what changes they have. Then, under the condition that you don't do visualization, you repeatedly grasp them. When it comes to actual combat, visualize the frozen river diagram in your mind and use it to promote your supernatural ability of frost. Then, combine the subtle changes in your body that you have mastered and you can use the Ice Sex Frost Force. Geyser Shi explained, "Of course, it's still miles away from my Ice Spirit Force." Speaking of this, he smiled and said, "Don't look down on it and think it's easy. It's not easy to master the essence and charm of the visualization diagram without a long time of comprehension. Even if you can enter meditation and see inside yourself, you still can't do it. Take it slow and don't rush. Try to master the Frost Force in half a year. By then, I can teach you 2 weakened versions of physical invulnerability moves. Without the Frost Force and without Lin Luoran's Meteor Force, even if you enter the dance stage, you still won't be a match for Peng Leyun. His shocking Thunder Force is not to be trifled with." Lu Cheng knew that Frost Force, Shocking Thunder Force, and Meteor Force were not as powerful as Burning Force, so it was normal for them to be hard to practice. But he didn't believe what his master said about it being hard to learn just by visualization. He had vaguely understood the Ice Mirror martial arts, which required 2 or 3 years to master, by relying on his ability to enter meditation, let alone this one. However, after a while, he had to admit that what his master said was right. His previous visualization didn't involve the essence and charm, so he couldn't understand the difficulty of outlining them. Now that he tried, it was really hard to grasp. It wasn't something that could be learned in a day. After taking another look at the visualization diagram, Lu Cheng more or less understood what the so-called essence and charm were. It was just like the brutal blizzard he was visualizing. For the time being, he only had the appearance and momentum of the brutal blizzard. As for how violent the wind was, how violent the snow was, and how violent it was, there was almost no indication of how violent it was. Suppressing his impatience, he calmed down and continued today's practice. He only squeezed out 20 or 30 minutes to understand the visualization diagram. After the practice, Geyser Shi took away the visualization diagram and didn't let him take it back, which showed how precious it was. Time flew and the weekend was coming. Outside the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, there was an endless stream of people. Last week's competition had left a very good impression on the spectators. They spread the news by word of mouth and spontaneously promoted it, so the number of people coming to cheer for them had more than doubled. And this was without any official promotion. Songqing University's martial arts atmosphere isn't as bad as the rumors say. A stocky man with arms crossed in front of his chest and quietly watched the entrance of the stadium. He sighed with emotion to his companions beside him. On a cold spring day, he only wore a black t-shirt, his legs stretched tight against his jeans. He had 3 companions, one of whom had a mohawk hairstyle that left a deep impression. He chuckled and replied, "What's the big deal? No matter how good the martial arts atmosphere is, it can't be compared to Yimo's." "You're talking as if you've been to Yimo," another bald man with a beard mocked. I'm just giving an example. Anyway, our purpose today is to observe Lu Cheng's battle and get a feel for the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. After the amateur ranking event, it'll be our turn. Whether we can qualify this year will depend on that battle. The man with the mohawk hairstyle laughed and looked more relaxed. A cyan dragon head vaguely appeared on their necks. Chapter 164. The sky was dark and gloomy. A spring rain was brewing, forcing the Songqing University Martial Arts Arena to turn on the lights in advance and illuminate the entire arena. Compared to last week when they spontaneously came, the students who rushed into the stadium this time did not buy trumpets, cheering sticks, and other items. However, many of them had already recalled the experience last year, which set off waves after waves of cheers around them. Each wave was louder than the last. Hearing Songqing University, Mo Zizong, the captain of Azure Dragon Squad, couldn't help but sigh. When can we have such a home ground, such an atmosphere? He and his 3 companions didn't find a seat, but stood at the back of the highest part of the stands, like 4 pillars and 4 security guards. Deng Hua with the Mohican hairstyle put away his relaxed expression and smiled bitterly. Others brought it themselves. We can't learn it, unless we can fight in the preliminaries one day. They were a local team in Songqing, unlike Yimo, or Songqing University Martial Arts Club, which had tens of thousands of students as its natural support. They had to compete with many strong teams for supporters. Songqing, as the provincial capital, had 2 clubs that had entered the 3rd level of the district competition, which had harvested most of the corresponding market, leaving very little for the strong teams in the preliminaries. The Azure Dragon Squad was a combination of 3 martial arts schools. They had rented the 2nd hall of the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium as their home ground. The stands that could hold a few thousand spectators usually only had 600 to 700 spectators. This was because many people were used to coming to watch a few fights on the weekends. Therefore, they placed a lot of importance on whether or not they could advance to the next round in a group. That meant that they would be able to get a share of the broadcast, a bigger audience, and a martial arts unique skill reward that was only 1 step away. After losing to Yimo Fearless Squad, they no longer had a way out. They had to defeat Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Therefore, they took advantage of the fact that their match was on Sunday to come to Songqing University to watch Lu Cheng's fight up close. After all, this was a genius who had reached the professional level in half a year. 2 weeks of recuperation might bring him a lot of changes. This match wasn't a focus match, only a recording. As for when it would be broadcasted after the recording, it would depend on the TV station's arrangement. In the locker room of the home team, Geezer Shi took a sip of wine and leisurely said to Lu Cheng, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yan Zheka and the others, "Finally, Peng Chengguang is really good. If he can get some good martial arts, it won't be a big problem for him to reach Dan's stage in a year. He can be considered as one of the top 10 professional 9th pin fighters in Songqing. However, I always feel that the ranking of the top 10 professional 9th pin is nonsense. It's like when you were in school, there were top 10 in your grade and top 10 in class. It's normal." Ha ha. Lu Cheng and the others were amused and the atmosphere lightened up. Although they had all been caught by Coach Shi in one fell swoop and placed in the bad students category, who could refute his words given his status as a mighty one with physical invulnerability? Geezer Shi was very satisfied with the effect of his words. He said proudly, "Sun Jian, Li Mao, you 2 fight one after the other. Apart from Peng Chengguang, Gao Rao, Zhang Ying, Chu Yu and Lu Wei of Mingwei Martial Arts School are not much worse than you. Go all out and don't worry." Lu Cheng laughed and raised his hand. "Coach Shi, you're giving me a lot of pressure." Yan Zheka, who was beside him, had been covering her mouth and laughing. Li Mao also relaxed. Pressure. Geezer Shi wouldn't say that he was giving pressure on purpose. He laughed and said, "I remember that this is your first fight on home ground, right?" Lu Cheng was stunned and nodded seriously. "Yes. Indeed, I almost forgot. This is my first fight on behalf of Songqing University Martial Arts Club in our school." Geezer Shi nodded slightly and pointed outside. "Listen carefully." The locker room fell silent immediately. Lu Cheng listened carefully and heard the familiar shouts. He heard the waves of voices that had brought him great shock. He heard the roars that had left a deep impression on him. Songqing University.
Songqing University. Songqing University. Songqing University.
This time they were crying for him.
Did you hear that?
Geezer Sure asked with a smile.
Yes. Lu Cheng nodded hard. Geezer Sure chuckled and asked again. Do you feel pressured?
Yes.
Lu Cheng didn't hide his slight trembling. His left hand felt Yen Zheka's delicate palm. Geezer Sure's expression suddenly became serious.
He said in a low voice. Do you want to win?
The shouts echoed in Lu Cheng's ears. Suddenly, his blood surged in his chest.
He shouted loudly. Brother Lu.
Yes. In the locker room of the away team, Peng Chengguang sat on a bench and looked at his junior brothers and sisters.
He smiled slightly and said, Why do you look like you've made a mistake?
He was wearing a dark gray martial arts suit and had a crew cut. His facial features were quite ordinary, but he had a calm temperament. He looked unusually capable. Zhang Ying, who had a baby face, bit her lower lip and said, Senior brother, we always feel like we're a burden to you. After our master passed away, you were the one who supported the martial arts club and prevented us from returning to the orphanage. But we not only failed to repay you, but also caused you to fail again and again. For several years, we couldn't advance in the group stage and get the martial arts unique skill reward. Senior brother, if you were willing to join other teams, you would have gotten a good martial arts skill and advanced to the dance stage long ago. We're so useless. We're only a burden. Gao Rao, who had long arms and legs, said a little self-deprecatingly. Peng Chengguang stretched out his hand and said, You don't have to say any more. I promised our master that I would make the martial arts club flourish and give you all a good future. This is my own choice. It has nothing to do with you. Besides, if I want to make the martial arts club flourish, I definitely can't rely on myself. I need your help. After all, one hero needs 4 helpers, right? Don't worry too much about this preliminaries. Our purpose is to use this opportunity to train ourselves. Of course it's good to win, but it doesn't matter if we lose. With this kind of experience, maybe next year or the year after, some of you will become professional fighters. At that time, if we work together, we won't be afraid that we can't advance. I'm still young. I can wait. Hearing that, Gao Rao put away his guilt and said worriedly, Senior brother, Lu Cheng from Songqing University Martial Arts Club should be able to fight today. You have to be careful. Hearing this, Chu Yu, who was next to him, said, Senior brother Gao, Lu Cheng is strong, but there's still a big gap between him and senior brother. It's said that his physical fitness has just reached the level of professional 9th pin. But he has mastered the mercurial balance and his physical strength is abnormal. Lu Wei was also a little worried. Peng Chengguang stopped the quarrel between his junior brothers and sisters and nodded with a smile. Lu Cheng is indeed very strong. He's an enemy that we have to look up to. In front of such a strong opponent, I should be modest and say that I'll be happy if I win, but it's also worth it if I lose. But I can't say it. Speaking of this, he touched his left chest and said, The more I face such a strong opponent, the more it beats, telling me. He stood up suddenly and said with a strong aura, I want to win. After the arrangement, Geezer Sure let Lu Cheng and the others move freely and wait for the fight. Lu Cheng wanted to close his eyes and rest for a while before warming up. But he saw Yen Zheka take out her phone and press the buttons quickly. Buzz! His phone in his pocket rang. He took it out and saw a message from the girl. She said with a pitiful voice, I'm so angry. What's wrong? Lu Cheng said with an emoji touching the head. I'm just kidding. Yen Zheka replied with a blushing emoji. I'm just a little disappointed. I thought I would have a chance to fight today. I always feel that with the ability to pull the center of gravity and listening skill, I'm not much worse than senior brother Sun Jian and senior brother Li Mao. Squatting and drawing circles in the corner. Am I too proud? Complacent? If it was Kai Xiaoming who said this, Lu Cheng would definitely reply, You're so full of yourself after winning one fight. But facing his girlfriend, he would definitely say something different. You're between the level of amateur 2nd and 3rd pin. You're close to them, but you're still lacking in actual combat experience. Yes. I'll improve my actual combat experience in next week's amateur ranking event. Yen Zheka replied with an emoji with bright eyes. It was the first amateur ranking event of the year again. Lu Cheng unconsciously smiled again. Which pin are you going to register for? Amateur second pin. One must have a goal. Yen Zheka sent an emoji with a red scarf wrapped around her head. Hey, I think I said something like that before, but at that time my goal was amateur fifth pin. Yeah. Lu Cheng also recalled the past. I thought it was too bold to register for amateur seventh pin at that time. But now. Yen Zheka sent an emoji with tears streaming down her face. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, she sent another message. Close your eyes and rest. Don't look at your phone. If you don't perform well, humph, don't think about doing that this week. It was you who sent the message first. Lu Cheng criticized in his mind and replied with a frightened emoji. Yes, Coach Yen. Seeing her boyfriend put down his phone and obediently closed his eyes to rest, Yen Zheka felt sweet in her heart. She was about to do the same, but suddenly found the door of the locker room opened and Lin Kei walked in. Cousin is so late today. She was surprised to see Lin Kei expressionlessly gesturing to her to look at her phone. Look at my phone? When Yen Zheka's eyes moved downwards, she felt the vibration of her phone and saw the message from Lin Quebec, last week at Tiantong Taoist Temple. Not only Xia Tiankei saw you and Lu Cheng, but also Uncle Xia. He mentioned it when he visited Grandpa this week. Your mother just called me and asked me if this was true. This. Yen Zheka's body suddenly trembled and she felt as if her heart had stopped beating. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.